urban music genres to our traditional rumba and benga roots. The big question we seek to answer is, might this be the reason our music has not done well on the international stage? Feel free to start dropping comments below and let us know what you think and where you're tuned in from. What city, what state, what country, what location you're tuned in. Please type in the comments and let us know. Na bila kusahau, tunapokea mziki toka DJ wetu, machachari, mleta habari, DJ OmoshFaya. Na tunadunda kule viwanjani na Micah jezeka nambari 7 mgongoni, akituletea habari za michezo. Na moja kwa moja toka Kilimanjaro Studios, mimi mtangazaji na mwanahabari wako mpendwa Ali Badawy. Kwetu wananiita mteule na wengine mniite mjukuu wa Masai. Because I'm Kenyan by blood, American by design, Masai by choice. Sichagui, sikagui, na sibagui. Karibuni.
You're listening to the OneMic show, live from Kilimanjaro's studio.
Now this hour we'll be talking to a pioneer, to one of the pioneering promoters of Kenyan music in the US and author of Rumba Evolution, Mr. Jojo Kilimanjaro. He'll be uncovering how Cuban rhythms found their way into Kenyan music through Congo. He'll also tell us how the tribalization of music and politics destroyed the Kenyan music industry. Please drop a comment below and tell us where you're tuned in from. We still want to know where you're listening to us from. And I'm your host and producer, Ali Badawy. It is Friday the 28th of February, and we are streaming live from Kilimanjaro Studios outside Washington, D.C. Now, please remember to follow us again on OneMic Show on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Mr. OneMic is out tonight, but on panel with me is our super producer, Mubelo Bandio. Our resident DJ OmoshFaya is already on the decks, and also not forgetting that Micah will be joining us via Zoom. And I'm glad to see that people are already tuned in here. I can see Washeke Ndirangu all the way from Texas saying, hiyo ngoma, Cecil, hiyo ndio ngoma. Hiyo ngoma ni fire. And then I can see up at
Which one was that? Kasongo?
Yeah, I think Kasongo. I think they're talking about Kasongo. And then up Adhiambo Dak says, please make sure you cover the entire crew of TPOK Jazz and include Simaroe, Tabule, Madilu, Mbilia Bell, Yondo Sister, Thailand Mwana, and all these beauties. And please mention Makosa Music, no matter how awesome, could not measure up, even though some Fantomas warred us. Asante sana Diambo Dak.
I think when Thailand Mwana, that was
Shalamwana. Yeah, so it was
that's
a typo.
Autocorrect.
Yeah, Thailand Mwana. I think she meant Shalamwana.
Googling Thailand.
Yeah, okay. She's been Googling Thailand. Now, Adiambo, tell us what you've been Googling about Thailand. If you've been Googling about Bangkok or whatever you've been Googling, please tell us what you've been Googling. Now, Gerald Oliech, karibu sana, tujakuona siku nyingi. Anasema ndani, niko in the area kama malaria. My goodness, this Kenyan lingo, I sometimes just don't get it, where we get some of these words.
So is he saying that he has malaria?
I have no idea. I have no idea. Gerald, please tell us. And then Washeke says, on point, this reminds me of my mom. Thank you so much, Washeke. That means so much to us. And thank you so much, DJ, for playing those tunes that reminded Washeke of the mom. And then I can see Akinyo Doyo all the way from Texas. Texas always representing in the building. And Asema Kanyo Kanyo. I think that's, I don't know if that's French or whether that's Zulu or whatever language that is, but Anasema Kanyo Kanyo. And then Apa Adhiambo Da corrected herself na akasema Shalamwana. Yakobo Simba in the building. Thank you so much, Yakobo. Yakobo says Madilu, Joski, Simaro, Shala, Bwana Legend. And then Yakobo anasema wewe unajua foundation. Mimo Koinange, man, Texas, man. Other states are being put. Someone from another state, please type up there and just tell me you're from another state. Because Texas is always
Iowa?
full in the building. I don't think there's anyone from Iowa here. And then Mimo Koinange here says Abari all the way from Kileleshwa. Missing you guys. Oh, salimia sana watu wa Kileleshwa. And then Washeke is saying she's tuning in from Kiev. I think she's there with Volodymyr Zelensky, you know, like trying to fight the Russians. Washeke, I don't think there's internet in Kiev. So please tell us what's going on there, but I doubt whether there's internet in Kiev. Then Apa Yakobo Simba says,
Yakobo is a DJ.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yakobo says, it's crazy. Just today, I was listening to Johnson Mukabi and Kabaka. That's a golden era of Kenyan music. We have lost touch. Na alafu Yakobo nasema, umeanza na ndio tumeanza. Kiev gani. And then there's someone who goes by the name Hourglass Figure. Okay? Asema tuned in from Maryland in Rockville. welcome our glass figure. We'd like to see that glass figure. And then Adhiambo here says, please give a shout out to the economic blackout. Leo, too much parking at Aldi and Target. I believe she's talking about the economic blackout that was being led by Al Sharpton. We're going to talk about that later if we have time. Jacobo Simba is tuned in from Pierre. At least we have someone from outside Texas. And then our Sheke claims he's in Kiev and there's a VPN there. So we are going to try to find out. And later on, I'm going to be introducing the rest of the panel. But before that, because we have so much to cover tonight, and we're going to be diving into a story of music, history, and identity, one that takes us from the slave ships of the Atlantic to the dance floors of Nairobi. Now, this is the story of Rumba, a sound that once defined East Africa, but has since faded into the background. We want to know why and what went wrong. How is this story associated with modern Kenyan genres failing to make the mark globally? And most important, how do we bring it back? Now, joining us to help us unpack this is Jojo Kilimanjaro, a pioneer of Kenyan music promotion in the US. He has spent over 20 years curating, promoting, and elevating African music. Also known as George Ndege, Jojo is also a chef, an entrepreneur, and now, of course, an author. His recent book, Rumba Evolution, is a must-read for anyone who cares about the future of Kenyan music. It traces how African rhythms traveled to Cuba via slave ships, then evolved and returned to shape the golden era of Rumba in Congo, Tanzania, and Kenya before being disrupted by foreign influences. Now, Jojo actually has a book launch ceremony next Friday, March 7th from 7 p.m. at the Cedar Cultural Center at 416 Cedar Avenue in Minneapolis, Minnesota. We're going to be, putting a link on the comments for those who are in Minneapolis. The event will feature a live band, so please make sure you RSVP. Don't just show up. Make sure you RSVP. And the book is also available on Amazon, and we shall be posting both links in the comment section. And of course, without much further ado, I'm going to welcome this giant on the Kenyan music scene in the US, a chef and a founder of Tamu Grill in Minneapolis, and of course the author of Rumba Evolution. Jojo Kilimanjaro, karibu sana ndani ya OneMic show. Karibu sana. How are you doing tonight? Can you hear us?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. All right.
Sawa kabisa, asante sana kwa kunikaribisha.
Okay. Thank you so much. We're going to try to get your sound more loud and clear. Now, before even we get into the details of the book, why did you decide to write a book? We never think of people who are in the music promotion business, in the event, in the entertainment business as authors. What made you think about writing a book? Very briefly, Jojo.
I grew up listening to Rumba on radio all over Kenya and watching my dad, my uncles, listening to the music while I was growing up. So it stuck with me. And after I moved to the US, I realized there's a lot of Kenyan DJs that do Rumba mixes. We have a lot of Kenyan DJs here in the US that play that music. And then I also realized that a lot of us did not know where that music came from or how it evolved. So I took an interest into trying to dig the history. And I'm glad to say this is the first book that brings it full circle. There's a lot of books that have been written about Afro-Cuban music or Rumba music, but there's no book that has ever taken it full circle from the beginning, where it started, full circle, back to Africa, and then out to the world again.
Okay, asante sana. That's good to know. And I want to welcome Brenda BK. Brenda BK is also tuned in from Texas. My goodness, Texas, I don't know. We need to do a live show from Texas because Texans always show us love.
We can just open a branch.
Or maybe we can open a branch there and get some people to help us. And then Apa Adhiambo Dak is saying, please give a shout. Oh, I already read that comment. Mimo says, please let's not forget Papa Wemba, and of course Jojo will be discussing about Papa Wemba, and then Jacobo has a question: has Rumba faded in the background? I think that's also another question that I'm gonna throw to Jojo before we get to, because it seems like Jacobo is having a question here. It's kind of like there's a disagreement. Has Rumba really faded into the background, Jojo?
Rumba has not totally faded into the background. No, the Afrobeat has kind of overshadowed it, but there's also an age thing. After a certain point, it's like Rumba, a certain age, Rumba is what the body appreciates, the mind and soul.
Okay.
You know, but there's a time before Afrobeats and Amapiano, Rumba, you may also call it Sukus, was like the most dominant African genre.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a sleeping giant. It's always there. Rumba or Sukus is going nowhere.
Okay. Sawa sawa. Now, Yakobo, like tell us whether you agree or disagree. Later on, I'm going to be introducing the panel shortly, so just stay tuned. But Jojo, tell us, at what point did you realize that there is a gap in understanding our music history by Kenyans, especially those in the industry? What point did you realize this, Jojo?
So I realized this by interacting with DJs, promoters, even presenters that would claim to be Rumba experts, but they wouldn't tell you where that music came from. So now that's when I really started developing an interest into finding out this music that a lot of people love. Where did it really, really come from? And that happened in my promotion journey, because I have promoted Rumba artists. And it's interesting to know that even Rumba artists themselves, even some from Congo, don't even know the history of the music. So I decided I'm going to be the one to put it all together. So I did it.
Okay. All right, good. Now, also, not to get too far, you talked about a disconnection. You said you uncovered a disconnection between Kenya's music and its historical roots. And we're going to get to how Rumba from Congo through Tanzania and Kenya is connected. But you talked about there being a historical disconnect with the modern music that's being played in Kenya today and its historical roots. Just within a few seconds, give us some highlights of why you're talking about what exactly do you mean by disconnection?
What I mean by that is, if you listen to Afrobeat is a descendant, if I may call it, of high life and Afrobeat, which was popularized by Fela Kuti. You listen to Amapiano, it's traditional music that evolved over time. It became township music, and now it's Amapiano. If you listen to bongo flavor, it has this Swahili swag. Iko na tarabu ndani. So ukisikia muziki kama ya Zuchu, you can obviously tell that kuna uswahili ndani. Now, tukifika Kenya,
yes.
All right? Tusikize muziki, tuseme genge tone, ukitaka kuita urban tone, haina sound distinct.
Okay.
So uwezi ukisikiza sound yenyewe, muziki yenyewe, you can't tell where it comes from unless mtu anze kuimba ile lugha tunajua, tuseme anaimba Sheng, then tunasema, oh, this is Kenyan music.
Okay.
But there's no cultural attachment to it. There's no foundation.
Okay. And now later on in this episode, we are gonna learn from you why you feel that connection is important, because there's someone who's wondering, okay, even if it's disconnected, why is that important? But we're gonna put that on pause for now. You'll be talking about that a little bit later on in the show. Just before I invite my panelists, Yakobo Simba here is on fire. My fans who are Rumba Leo, they're all in the building. Yakobo is saying Sukus and Dombolo were the most popular genres. I do not agree that Rumba faded or taken a backseat globally. Fair enough. Then Yakobo further says, in fact, Google Rumba mix on YouTube and you will see minimum of 100K views of a week-old mix. And then Apa Adhiambo Dak says, this says, without taking away Jojo's experience, those of us who are raised by parents, especially Luos, who came of age around independence, did not escape this music. I gave away all the LPs, including my last album that my dad gifted me before he died, Muzina, R.I.P. Tabule, and my dad. So you can see there's some hardcore Rumba fans in the building.
She gave away what was gifted to her by her dad.
Yes, but I want to come back in the studio right now. Let me start kwanza with DJ OmoshFaya, and then we're gonna go to Mubelwa. DJ OmoshFaya, karibu sana.
Asante, asante.
Yeah, just quickly give me your first impressions of Jojo's book Rumba Evolution that you've had a chance to read. What were your first impressions, and what did you get there compared to what you know about Kenya's music history? DJ OmoshFaya, twende kazi.
It was well thought of, well written, and I think in a way he was showing us his background. That degree, the one that he came to America to get, the first one.
Yeah,
it came out in the book.
Yeah, and he'll talk about it.
That thing came out in the book. I was like, oh, okay. Now I see. And by the way, there was a flow. He was telling a story without forcing the story upon you.
Okay.
So
yes,
basically anybody is able to read it, and if the content is say too much for you in one sitting, you can always come back and come back in another sitting and still take it in. But it's actually less. I would say 2 hours or less read.
A 2 hour read.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Or less.
Okay.
It depends on how fast you read.
And then there's also an audio version. So if you don't like reading, yes, there's an audio version. Sorry you didn't know that, but now you know. And it's all on Amazon. If you just search Rumba Evolution, yes, if you just search Rumba Evolution, you wanna start buying that book right about now. Because
can he sign first the audio version?
Well,
I'm asking for a friend.
We're gonna be talking about that later on in the show. But let me come back to the studio again, Mubelwa Bandio. We want a Tanzanian perspective.
You mean a Bongo perspective?
Yes. How did the book's historical coverage of Tanzanian music stand out to you?
And
Mubelwa
don't start with
Bandio,
Kagera
karibu
Sugar,
sana.
please.
Yeah.
Keep Kagera Sugar
I
out
think
of
it's
this.
on chapter 8, I believe.
Yes,
when
I
you
think it
talk
was
about
chapter
that.
8,
And it
yes.
was short, precise, and clear. So pretty much was like a summary of exactly what happened. I liked it. The liking of what happened from World War II to Rumba. And, I love old school, right? This was a Western jazz and Juata jazz. I was happy kusoma anajua kuhusiana na Juata kwanzia Nuta, And if I'm not mistaken, that's still the oldest active band in Africa, if I'm not mistaken. Nuta Jazz, which is now Msondongoma.
Okay.
So it was a lot to take in 2 pages. Not a lot by meaning was enough for you to reflect, and for us who grew up in those years, it was Amani Sana. Yeah, it was a good reminder of how it happened, but it was just safi, lugha nyepesi, and ilivyoandikwa, it just makes you just flow. Mimi sio msomaji wa vitabu, but I did.
Very good.
Yep.
And then we also have Micah, who's live via Zoom. Micah, I'm not sure whether you had a chance of reading the book to the end. Just give us your thoughts, first impressions, and what you're thinking. Micah Och, twende kazi.
Kwanza nimeanimutiwa ama sijanimutiwa?
Wewe
Kwa nini unapiga kelele?
Mna tabia sana kuniambia niongee na mmenimute.
Just
Ayupo.
Try and speak. Let's hear.
Hello, can you hear me?
We are hearing you muted. I mean, yeah, go ahead.
Anyway, mimi naomba tu kweli hamkunitumia kitabu.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
There's evidence.
Yeah.
It's okay.
But it's okay. We'll revisit that after the show. Nyuma ya tent. There's evidence.
Angalia na nyuma ya tent nimwatumia message saa hii.
Okay, sawa.
Hatuwezi ongea mbele ya nini.
Let's discuss. Those are domestic issues.
Alikuwa na title wange Google.
Yeah. Let's discuss those domestic issues, Kando. But your first impressions, just from the way the conversation is going, Micah.
No, my first impression was even not about that conversation. The first impression was before the show started, I had a 5-minute conversation with Jojo. And that conversation we went about towards the Rumba thing. And the first joke that we made was like, actually, I was like, unajua Rumba siku hizo wanasema mademo sikiza Rumba ni mademo wako na daddy issues. Right? All sikiza Rumba but then yeah, Jojo's like, yeah, unajua muziki imetulia, like right, muziki when you go old and how the body gets to it. But then when you read an excerpt of the book and how it breaks down the Rumba story, for me what I caught about it was that, as Omosha said, it's an easy read, and then it's one of those reads whereby that you know those reads where you don't understand a topic, but when you read it for the first time, you kind of feel like you resonate with the topic and how it is, especially kama umesikia rumba. Then you get those aha moments, like aha, so like it starts making sense based on things you hear on how the music, and then when you watch other shows, and then when you listen to music from other countries, you can see that direction of how that music made that full circle vile Jojo amesema. So nilisoma kitabu. Washenzi nyinyi.
Okay.
Wameenda wapi watu wa show?
Okay, all right,
Tuko
sawa
hapa,
sawa.
tuko hapa. There was a problem with the mute button.
Okay, sawa sawa. Asante sana Micah. I can see Tabitha is already in the building. Texas again. Indefatigable Wanjeri is in the building all the way from Massachusetts, and Lloyd Osunga, aka Lloyd Umoja, all the way from the tri-state.
Ule mu moja.
Yes, huyo moja. Karibu sana. Please tell us what you think. And then I can see also on YouTube, YouTube is active and live. I can see Wairimo N is already in the building. Anasema call in the house, my all-time favorite, the mushrooms. And then I can see Wairimo Father says, Rumba to me seems very close to Cuban, Mambo, and Cha-Cha. And we're going to be talking about that. And then we have OneMic, who is a no-show. He has called out.
Did he call out, or he was a...
No, he's a no-show. He's a no-call, no-show, and he's trying to give instructions from the comment section.
What is he saying? That we need to raise the volume,
saying,
or we need to turn him off?
No, he's saying,
mute.
He's saying that Jojo had a show on radio in Minneapolis. He should give us the journey to that, and if the show still airs. Now, you would have had the right to ask that question
Had
if you showed up to
in
work.
the studio.
Yeah.
But since you didn't show up to work,
Yes.
we can just, maybe you can be Jojo's, what is it?
Yeah.
Sous chef. Jojo needs a sous chef, so he can go there and become
Yes.
his nini.
Okay, and up on Facebook, Wanjeri is saying, as a Rumba lover, I am offended to hear we have Sijui what issues. But anyway, we're going to talk about that later. I want to remind all the listeners that you tuned in to the OneMic show, and I'm your co-host and producer, Ali Badawi. We are talking to Jojo Kilimanjaro, a pioneer of Kenyan music promotion in the US. He's also the author of Rumba Evolution, a book that traces how African rhythms traveled to Cuba via slave ships and evolved and returned to shape the golden era of Rumba in Congo, Tanzania, and Kenya, before, of course, being disrupted by foreign influences. He has a book launch ceremony next Friday, March the 7th from 7 p.m. at the Cedar Cultural Center at 416 Cedar Avenue, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Please RSVP on the link, which we're going to be posting. And the book is also available on Amazon. You want to grab your copy, you want to get the audio version on your Kindle, and it's only a 2-hour listen.
And how do you get it? Would you search for
Amazon? Just search Rumba Evolution. There's only one Rumba Evolution.
Spell that, please.
Rumba, R-U-M-B-A.
There's no H.
There's no H.
The Swahili version of Rumba, no H. R-U-M-B-A.
Okay. I thought,
Yeah.
okay.
The Spanish version to name Rumba. But then let me ask, why do Congolese call it Rumba?
Sasa hiyo hapo tutaenda
But that's the
tutaenda-
R in French, rumba.
Rumba.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think it's a pronunciation issue.
Yeah.
However, we'll shortly be talking about how Tanzania and Congo protected their music industry where Kenya failed. So I want you to stay tuned. And of course, our lines are open. Anybody who wants to call in, the number is 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. Now, Jojo, want to come back to you. And now we are getting to that part that most people don't know. Now, how did enslaved Africans in Cuba preserve their musical identity? I mean, of course, we know the very unfortunate incident of Africans being picked up as slaves and being taken to the Americas. There's some who landed in Cuba. So how are they able to keep their musical tradition to the point that it remained very close, unlike other spaces that had African slaves like the US? Jojo, twende kazi.
So there was a lot of slaves taken from Congo by the Spanish to Cuba, which was a Cuban colony back then. Now, what the Spanish people did once they got the slaves to their sugarcane plantations, because that's where they were working them, they divided them up into sections, which they call cabildos. And those sections were sectioned out depending on where the slaves came from. So the slaves from Congo were in one region, right? So now what happens is, because they did not travel there with their music instruments or anything, they did not have, their main instrument was the kalimba, which was a thumb piano. They couldn't take those along, as you know. So what they did was recreate versions of their music while in the slave plantations. So one of the things that happened there is they came up with percussion instruments that were readily available. One of them was the claves, just two sticks that they look like bamboo sticks that you strike to create a sound. And they also came up with drums called the bongos, two little drums that they put between the legs, and you know, that's how they played them. And then they adapted the Spanish guitar. It came in as a 10-string instrument called the bandola, but they reduced the strings to 6 because of how difficult it was to obtain the strings. So now what they did is combine the string instrument with the percussion instruments and vocal improvisation to come up with a genre of music called Cuban son, or son cubano. Now what they wanted their intention was to recreate the sound of this kalimba, which was their main instrument back in the motherland. So the Cuban song music from the plantations ended up in the cities of Havana and Matanzas back in the 1930s, now after the slaves were freed. So once they got there, they created entertainment centers of their own that they called solaras. And they used to play this music in the evenings. Now, if from history, those of you who followed the Cuban-American conflict, back in the 50s and early 60s, there was free movement between Cuba and the US. So a lot of the musicians ended up in New York, Spanish Harlem. And that Cuban song music ended up merging with jazz music and formed some kind of a ballroom genre called salsa. And a lot of us know what salsa is. Mm-hmm. So that's the Cuban sound mixed with Spanish sound by the Congolese slaves that reached in America.
Now let me pause you
there.
Yeah, let me pause you there, Jojo, because there's so much to unpack from what you just said.
Yes.
Especially on the musical side. There's something interesting you mentioned, that in Cuba, the slaves were organized based on the region they came from in Africa. And we know that in the US, for those who are familiar with US slave history, it was quite the opposite. They made sure that people who spoke the same language were separated, were not in the same area, to completely erase their identity. So we see there was an opposite system in Cuba where they decided to put them together, which kind of partly explains, and Jojo, you can correct me if I'm wrong, why there was a retention of African identity within the Cuban slaves and, of course, with their descendants, as compared to the American counterparts, who, because of that separation, it seems like all those musical skills or any other cultural associated skills they may have had was completely erased after that first generation faded off. Is that correct, Jojo?
That's very true. Remember also that in Cuba, they had slaves from Nigeria, from Cameroon, from Benin. And they formed a different genre of music, which kind of shares the same name, but it's not exactly the same. It's not exactly the same music. The Cuban rumba is West African. Son music is Congolese. Okay. So because the enslavers divided them into these cabildos, these silos, they ended up developing their own music, although there was some connections.
Okay. All right. Now, how, like, so this music was in Cuba. Now,
Right.
within slaves and descendants of slaves, how did it make its way back to Africa? Because that's a part that I think is very profound and that most people are not familiar with. Jojo.
Okay. Once the music got to New York, the American companies, including EMI and Victor, started recording this song music. And it became so popular around the world that they started exporting these vinyls. And some of those vinyls called GV series. Some of you may remember those as Her Majesty's Voice. Ended up in Africa. Some of them were exported to Africa.
You mean?
Right? Two, during World War II, there's also a lot of Africans that were recruited as soldiers to fight for the Western Alliance. So when these soldiers returned home, they went back with these GV series and gramophones. That's how the music returned, one of the ways the music returned home. Three, through radio. In places like Congo, the Belgians established radio stations mostly for political reasons. But later, these stations started playing music. And the music that was coming through was Western music, jazz, and the rest, and also this Cuban sound. So when Africans had this Cuban sound, especially in Congo, it sounded so familiar. So they embraced it more than they embraced the other genres. Do you want me to stop there?
Okay. No. I mean, there's a lot. There's quite a bit here. You unpacking OmoshFaya. Something you wanted to ask.
I was about to ask him about the GV stuff, which I think for people who know records, those were the 78s. Those had.
What are 78s?
Jesus.
They're between singles and albums. Somewhere in between. In terms of size.
So 45 ni kale kadogo.
Okay.
78 ni ile kubwa ni chapo kubwa.
Okay.
Ni chapo kubwa. Lazima kuna chapo media.
Yes, and it's hard.
Okay.
The record is very hard.
So the storage size went by the size of the actual or
the speed, right?
Speed.
78 is the revs per minute.
Okay.
So 45, 78, and then there was the other one that's in between all three of 33. Sorry, then there was also 33.
Okay.
So, but 45s are the ones that we know. Those are like those small ones.
Okay.
Yeah, and then 33s are the regular LPs that everybody knows and sees now. But 78s were the originals.
Okay.
And those, when they were pressed, it was a very hard plastic, extremely hard. In fact, it was even hard to break it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. But now, yeah, go ahead, Jojo.
Go ahead, Jojo.
Yeah. So when this GV series arrived in Africa, especially in Congo, they were being played on the radio because that's before TV. And that's how Africans started hearing this music. And interestingly, in Congo, it seemed to resonate so much with them because it's only 3 or 4 generations removed at this point. So what happens now is the local musicians take this music and re-Africanize it, okay? The Spanish guitar had gotten to Africa at this time. The acoustic guitar, which in Kenya we call the box guitar or the dry guitar back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s.
Mm-hmm.
So they take this and try to replicate the sounds of the kalimba or likembe that the music started with in the beginning. So they take this and then add a few local instruments, and voila, Congolese rumba was born. And one of the people that came out of this era is a person by the name of Wendo Kolosai, or Papa Wendo. So he was a former boxer that had traveled a lot along the River Congo.
Not to be confused with Papa Wemba.
No,
Okay.
this is Papa Wendo.
Papa Wendo. Okay.
Is the father of Congolese rumba.
Okay.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so he takes this guitar with some local percussion instruments, and his first song that really became popular was Marie Louise, 1948. So that becomes the first Congolese song to go international. Do you still want me to continue, or you want to go step by step?
So what I'm trying to understand, this was in the 40s, so we're talking well before,
In the 30s.
or in the 30s. This is well
Yes.
before independence. So this music was already marinating in the Congo, and people were tuned into it. So was it only in Congo, or were these colonial radios also there in places like Tanzania and Kenya? Because you're saying the Congolese resonated with them. Were this music that the Congolese were listening to also being listened by people in Tanzania and Kenya at that time?
Yes.
Okay.
They were being listened to, but it wasn't as embraced as it was in the Congo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So there were radio stations in Kenya run by the British. Before KBC, it was Kenya Broadcasting Service.
Mm-hmm.
In Tanzania, there was a German radio station there.
Okay.
In Congo, in Kinshasa, Leopoldville this time, there was 2 radio stations, Radio Congolia and Radio Congo Belgique.
Okay.
So it's run by the Belgians.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right. This is quite interesting. And of course, if you're tuned in, make sure you follow us on all our social media pages. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and all other spaces at OneMic Show. So please make sure you follow us. And if you're watching on YouTube, please like the video. If you're watching on Facebook, and please share. Please share and subscribe. That will get more people to see our content. I can see the comments here coming on the YouTube side. And then we have a women's Talk Wednesday is asking, do you ship globally? Do you ship globally? Jojo, I think that's a question to you. That's for the Rumba Evolution book. Yeah.
Through Amazon.
Mm-hmm. So through Amazon, you can order it and it will ship globally.
Yeah, through Amazon, you can do that.
Okay. All right. Good.
And I do have, physical copies for people who are interested in that.
Okay. Are they free, Ama? They require money?
Yeah, and do you know how to scribble with a pen on it? I'm just asking for friend.
Yeah.
We can scribble on it.
Okay.
But it's not free.
Okay.
Hakuna cha bure.
Jojo, Bana, we've known you since you didn't even have a name, Bwana.
How much?
When you are still G.
How much are the books, Jojo?
The book online, I believe it's $14.
Okay.
But the ebook is, I believe, like $5-6.
Okay. So
and the audiobook is about $5 too.
Okay. All right. So Rumba Evolution, and the Rumba is RUMBA. Just search for it on Amazon, and you'll be able to download it and start reading it right away. I want to come back to the studio, and I want to go to Bandio on the Tanzanian side. It seems like Tanzania adopted this Rumba sound slightly earlier, a bit earlier than Kenya. So at what point was it embraced, and why did Tanzania embrace Rumba? What was your feeling at that particular time? I mean, I know you were not around, but I'm sure you know people who were around at that time.
How do you know he wasn't around?
How do you know that?
Omosh was the only person who was around in the 40s. Yeah. He was the only person who was around. The rest of us were not.
This thing never ends.
Yeah.
So I think if you read the book, actually, he detailed very well about how, amongst other things, the Radio Tanzania, RTD, played part on that. So was that, but also when those people came in, I mean, one of the band that he didn't mention was, I think, Tankatalmas, that had Kasalo Kyanga and Kyanga Songa. Those were a couple of Zairians back then, Congolese.
Now, what years are we talking about?
80s.
This is 80s. This is more
I'm
recent.
talking about, yes, 80s.
Okay.
That's, hiyo ndio miaka nilikuwa natoroka naenda kwa club.
Okay.
Did I say that? So, Yeah, I think it was that, but at the same time hata muziki wa asili wa Tanzania kidogo uliweza kumedo katika hizo nyimbo. Then language kama baba amezungumzia, was a big part of that. And one thing that I never thought about it is just them being salaried. Because back then it's like Washirika Tanzania Stars, which was part of the CCM's youth club also with Vijana Jazz Band and then Washirika Tanzania Stars. The first show I went, they had like 35 or 40, band members. Yes, and they were salaried. Yes, and
so this was serious business.
This is what they used to do. You get enlisted in JKT, and it'll be just playing for JKT Jazz. You go for the prison service, you'll be playing for Magereza Jazz. Police Jazz. We had Police Jazz, Mwenge Jazz, Magereza Jazz. All these, they were salary people. And then on top of that, you have Nuta, which came Juata, and then, O2 Jazz. Those were people. DDC Mliman Park was Dar es Salaam Corporation, Dar es Salaam Development Corporation, Mliman Park Orchestra, Sikinde. So I think that played big part because
these different government agencies had paid bands where people were wanamka kila siku kazi ni kwenda kupiga mziki na wanalipwa.
Mazoezi na wanalipwa.
Okay, very interesting. OmoshFaya, I want to come to you, then I want to go to Micah. Just now pushing back to the Kenyan side. Now, Kenya's music, what was the difference? Because you see that Tanzania, yes, indeed, they were adapting some foreign music, but customizing it to their own sound and their own style. What was different when it came to the adoption of foreign styles in Kenya compared to Tanzania's? Because you go back even to our parents' generation, in as much as they were listening to Benga and all that, but they were also familiar. They were very familiar with a lot of foreign music. So what was the difference in Kenya?
I think Kenyans in general, even now as we see it now, are more open to all sorts of musical genres or music from outside of Kenya in of itself. But I think one of the key things for us as Kenya with the influx of the foreign music, or should I say the different music that's from outside Kenya, is because we had studios in Kenya. So the fact that we had studios, a lot of these musicians were coming from outside the country and coming into Kenya and recording, then realizing, you know what, there's no war like we have over there. We're not being stepped on, and they end up staying. And then we had the big hotels. The tourists would come to the hotels. You had really
good studios,
and
recording studios.
Yes, all the big studios were in Kenya. Yes. So they would come and they become a house band at a hotel. A lot of the hotels. Some fun fact that you may not have known: DJ Paco Perez.
Yes.
Came to Kenya originally as a band member that was playing at a hotel.
Wow.
So these guys, and he's Spanish. So they were the guys who were coming and they were playing, in hotels. So every hotel had a house band and so on and so forth. So the Congolese became very adept at adapting and switching from, of course, they spoke, some Swahili, but it wasn't, the Swahili we knew. But these guys could, play, hear anything, play, follow, adapt, do covers. And those are the things that the tourists wanted to hear, And it didn't cost a lot to have those guys to come in, and they are salaried. Whereas back home, that's not happening. We had, Kenya was like that melting pot that allowed all these guys to come in, flourish, and keep playing. And that's why guys like Samba did very well, because
Samba Mapanga.
Yeah, he switched.
Okay. And most people think, most Kenyans actually used to think even until
Samba,
today, think that Samba was originally Kenyan.
All of those guys, Samba, Longombas, all the Mangelepas, the Mazembes, all those guys.
And when you're talking about Longombas, you mean the same family of the current Longomba, the one who's a prophet now in California.
Yes. Okay. The origin, those guys are all Zaida Yote.
Okay, Micah.
Go ahead, Micah.
So can I just interject there for a second?
Sure, okay, interject and then we'll go to Micah.
Yeah, quickly, because when you're talking about Longombas,
yes,
Lovie and Christian are the sons of Lovie Longomba, who used to be the lead singer for Super Mazembe.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And are they related to Awilo Longomba?
Yes.
Or
yes, that's their uncle.
Yes,
so Lovie and
Christian.
And no, Lovie and Christian. What was their dad's name again?
Lovi Longomba.
He was also Lovi.
So Lovi now is the brother to Awilo Longomba.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And I would
Interesting.
say
Na huyo mwingine
Okay, that's
Sorry.
alafu na
Jo-
huyu mwingine
okay.
huyu mwenye uko huko, the one who
The
did
Prophet.
the remix, ule P ya mwene, that is all the, you know what's his name?
Who's that?
Micah.
I. Okay.
There's one who right before 2019 during COVID his song was so famous in all African nini. He's like, and then he also did the remix with Awilo. Yeah, but he's also the relative. Like he's the current Longomba that's hitting right now.
Okay.
But then, yeah. So jumping on Omosh's talk about Kenya is that I was lucky when I was young. I lived in an estate where these musicians lived. Dio Messiani, Fundi Konde, Fadili Williams, and who's the one who sang Basi Driver,
Fadili
Taxi?
Fadili Williams.
No, that
Fadili Williams.
yeah, Fadili. And then there's another one, Yuluma Biala,
Okay.
and then later on Wenge Muzika, and that was in Donholm. I don't know why most of them came to, but I remember Wenge when they will go and train, and we used to call Jibe Papa. Like that was the nickname that he was called in the estate, Papa Takicheza Ball. Like they were so young, and and then the next thing, I remember when Kalaibuinge came out, when they went to France, and then Kalaibuinge came out, and people were like, wait, ini ngoma kina Papa? Ni kina Papa wamenini? Wametua ngoma, yes, Yakobo Simba, Inosbi. Yeah, the one I was referring to.
Or the one who sang with Diamond. He did a song with Diamond.
No, the one I'm referring as
that's their relative. I didn't know he was a relative.
Mhm.
So, and you could see at that particular time when we were young, we just used to call Fadili Williams Buddha Babush, Dio Messiani Buddha Akina God Lizard, right? Like, we used to know them as Babanani. Even Munishi, we used to live in the same estate with him. We used to call them like Babanani. We never quite. So when you grow up, is when you realize that all these musicians were centering over there because of the proximity to the studios. The good studios were in Kenya. All of them, while they were living in Kenya, and it goes back again to, as Jojo has said in the book. When you read how when the soldiers came back and they settled in the urban centers, and people were saying they came back with those megaphones and people are playing those songs, how you look at you come to understand now how the Benga sound has evolved over the years, because Benga was traditionally Luo music, which came interjected with this other modern music, and we've seen how Benga has transformed from Ukende Kokat Bigi, then it changes up to Kina Tony Nyadundo, got another a good modern mix. Now you go to Kina Prince Inda, you listen to the Rumba, to the Benga that is being played now. It's Kino Kelomax. It's Rumba basically. Like it's come, that traditional model has merged into a point where you can't tell the difference. So I would like to ask this to Jojo. If Kenya was such a place whereby we saw most of our sounds merging into this modern rumba and coming out, we came with Kina Daudi Kabaka taking that twist, salsa version from it. We came again, if you look at Mugithi, which came out from the one-man guitar era, which came out from country music. What really has stopped our sound from growing up if we are that adaptable?
From growing internationally?
Yeah.
Yes.
Now that's a good question coming from Micah. That's a part that we are gonna be talking about quite in detail. So Micah, your pause. We are gonna get back to that question, because that's a very big part of this conversation. Because I think most people who are listening in the industry, they want to understand why that disconnect that Jojo was talking about earlier has made our music not grow. And the fact that there are still some artists, like you mentioned, Micah, like Kina Prince Inda, who are still looking for that connection to Kenya's old music. But just to go back to where we are, because I think we're still in Congo. We're about to get to the Tanzanian side, because that's a journey that it took. It started in Cuba, like, of course, it originally started in Africa. Then African slaves were picked up. They were taken to different parts of the Americas. So in Cuba, they recreated this music in the different cabildos, you say, they were put according to where they came from. And then this music was imported to New York, because at that time there was free movement between Cuba and the US. And then in World War II, where African soldiers went to fight, that's where all these people came to meet together again. And African soldiers came back to Africa with this music that was adapted, and it was being played in radio in Congo and in the different countries where there were colonies. Now, enter someone called Mobutu Sese Seko Kukungwendu Wazabanga, who overthrew Patrice Lumumba and took over the leadership in what was then called the Democratic Republic of Congo, but then later on he changed the name of the country to Zaire. What impact did the entry of Mobutu Sese Seko Kukungwendu Wazabanga have on music? Twende kazi, Jojo.
So Mobutu did two things. He destroyed the country, but built Rumba.
Okay, all right, that's very interesting. Destroyed the country but built Rumba. Tell us more about that.
Okay, so Mobutu was a lover of music.
Yes.
But apart from just music, he wanted it to be authentic. So he came up with this program called Authenticité in French, where the government had the Ministry of Culture as a centerpiece of his program and vision for the country. So apart from the music, fashion was also included. The only thing is like women were not allowed to wear miniskirts, so they introduced these let me call them cultural outfits that you even see Congolese women wearing now, proudly wearing them. But that is as a result of Mobutu. When it comes to music, he promoted that Congolese rumba sound. The only thing he wanted is bands to sing his praises.
Yes.
All right?
Okay, all right.
So some of the musicians, like Papa Wendo, the one who had the first international song, decided he's not going to do that. So he quit music for a while. He quit music for a very long time until Mobutu was gone. Others decided to flee because apart from the economic demise of the country, he was also forcing them to sing just praises to his government. So a lot of the musicians had to flee. Some of them had to flee to France, to Paris. Papa Wemba and the Kandabongo man and them. Others fled east, to East Africa, to Tanzania, Kenya, and Uganda. So for those who went to Uganda, unfortunately, there was another Mobutu there.
Another
called
cap.
Idi Amin.
Idi Amin Dada.
Idi Amin. Idi Amin even conscripted some of the musicians into the military
Where?
and made them sing for him.
So wait, so you're a musician and then he forced you to become a soldier?
No, he saved your life by putting you in the military, so you sing for him.
Wow. Okay, this is very interesting.
But then if you sing and is in a bad mood and doesn't feel happy, he shoots you.
Yeah. So back to Mobutu. At some point, he put Franco, Simaro, and other band members in prison because they refused to toe the line. But afterwards, Franco decided to toe the line and became friends with Mobutu, and even sang a song for him.
Mobutu. Yeah.
You guys remember that song?
Yeah,
we used to get it from Matt.
Yeah, I remember.
And from CBD to Kibira, the song wasn't even halfway.
Wow.
It was
It was a long song. It was one of
it was
those
a long song.
about 15 minutes.
praising Mobutu. Sese Seko.
Mobutu Sese Seko.
Kukungwendu was a banger.
He would sing Mobutu. In fact, that Sese Seko would never finish. By the time he says Seseko, that's the 15th minute.
So make us understand something, because this is something that we saw in Kenya during Moi's rule. You know, like we started seeing this influx of musicians who are just singing his praises. So clearly this wasn't something new. What value were these politicians getting from musicians singing their praises? Because if it gets to a point where like they even have to imprison them, what value was there for music in politics?
So for dictators, you know, they try to be popular with the masses. And one way of getting to the masses is through the music. And Franco's music was very appealing to the masses. So Mobutu decided that he's going to use music to popularize himself. There are pictures, if you Google, where Franco and his entire band are in military fatigues performing around the country. And after doing that, he ended up blessing him with one of the top studios in Kinshasa and a nightclub.
Wow. So bribery, corruption, waziwazi.
Inaitwa takrima.
Oh, takrima. Okay.
That's how TPOK Jazz survived.
This
And remember that band was how many, Jojo? There were what? There were like 20 people in the band.
Depending, you know,
there were many, right?
Sometimes even up to 30.
Yes, there were many people. And now imagine all of you have been jailed. How many houses is that people are not eating? It's a lot. At some point, you say, you know what? Let's toe the line. We adjust, and we'll come out fight another day.
Wow, you know, like this is quite interesting, because a lot of people have never understood the intersection between music and politics, and you see it in different countries. In Tanzania, for example, Bandio will tell you all the top artists, whenever it comes to you know, like election time, like I believe this is an election year in Tanzania, they are all composing songs.
They are towing the line.
Yeah.
And they're all wearing green.
Yeah.
But you know, they make more money
and yellow
in 2, 3, 4, 5 events than they would in an entire year.
Yes.
So it's also a money issue for them.
Yes. Oh yes.
Okay.
They went to perform for what I think was a CCM something, and they were paid from, you know, up to 25K. You know, they don't make that much.
Wow. Okay.
25K.
It's a lot. It's life-changing money. It's life-changing
Wow.
money. Remember Gidi Gidi and their song?
Yes, and Bogabol.
Yeah.
You know, it was also very big.
And there are many guys who, you know, have been approached about doing their songs or, you know, switching their songs during campaign time. And some people are like, you know, they fall back. But when you see the type of money being thrown at you, you'll sing that song. So
Jojo, back to you. This time when politics got into the music scene in Congo, I think this is the time in the book you say that now people start, there's some artists who are fleeing. Now, where are they going? And now, where are they taking this music with them? Because you said there's some who stopped singing like Papa Wendo, but where are these other musicians? You mentioned Uganda. What other places are they going, and where is Rumba going?
Okay, so let's move back a little bit.
Yeah.
Before Mobutu.
Yes.
So after the first, after what I call the first generation Congolese Rumba with Papa Wendo, there was a second generation of Congolese Rumba music, which brought in people like African jazz with Dr. Nico as the guitarist, and Joseph Kabasele as the lead singer. This by far was the most influential Rumba band in Congo. Then after that came OK Jazz, and then TPOK Jazz. So for the first 10 years, it was African jazz that was most dominant. And then Franco came as as OK Jazz, and then TPOK Jazz. But also remember, there's a lot of other Rumba bands now. There's Orchestra Shama Shama, Orchestra Lipua Lipua, Orchestra Veve, Orchestra Kiam, and many, many, many more. Okay, so Rumba is booming now. After the generation, which I may call second generation of Franco and African jazz, there came a third generation, which I don't want to forget Tabule Rochereau,
Tabule.
okay, because he was a member of African jazz for a little bit, then left and formed his own band. Then after him, actually Franco was although Franco was the most popular one, Tabule was more transformative in that he moved the music, the rumba music, away from the African jazz sound, which was more Cuban, to one that was more soukous and fast-paced, created for dancing. So he actually combined rumba with James Brown kind of soul music. He even used to dance like James Brown. So that one picked up the tempo of rumba music. Remember, like the African jazz was more laid back back in the day. And then after that came the third generation now, which was Zaiko Langa Langa. Zaiko Langa Langa are actually the ones who created the soukous sound. Because now what they did is they got rid of the horn section, because these bands all had like saxophones and trumpets, maybe 6 in the band. So, and remember when Zaiko Langa Langa started in the 70s, they were in their 20s. Yes. They were high school kids. So they decided this music that Tabule and Franco playing, this is for a generation that's gone. We need a new sound that's bumpier, that is higher octane for the younger generation. So they got rid of the horn section. They got rid of the maracas, percussion instruments that are Cuban influenced. They got rid of the claves. So for the horn section, they replaced that with a keyboard. And then for the percussion instruments, they replaced that with the modern drums now. And the African jazz, era, they also had the congas. Every band had those congas. They got rid of that. So what they did now, they created what we know now as the modern rumba or soukous, if you want to call it, the kind that Wenge Musica replicated, where up front there was like 5 to 6 vocalists or singers that harmonized and danced. Then there was the drummer, and then 3 guitars, the bass, the rhythm, and the lead. So that now, the third generation rumba is what became soukous. And at this point now,
we hear you.
No, we can hear you. We can hear you. Yeah.
So at this point now, Mobutu is in, okay? So at this point, Mobutu is in. So because the economy was going down and there was a lot of competition too in Kinshasa from all the different bands, some of the musicians decided, we gotta leave. So there are those who ended up in Paris, including Papa Wemba, Soukous Stars, all the guitarists that we Diblo Dibala, who made the sound become the sound, the Soukous sound that
the Diblo,
that we
the
now
Alan
know.
Kunku,
So like there's this is so much to unpack. The one thing that I'm seeing consistent in the history that you're giving is that this music is evolving, but it's evolving within, it's growing from within. It's coming from this sound, then a new generation comes in, they take the same sound, but they tweak it. They take out some things, they add new ones, they add a dance element, they add the speed, but it's still, like growing within its own axis. It's not disconnected from its origins. Okay. All right. I think that's quite an important part, because I think that will be key in understanding why the disconnection that has been happening in Kenya why that would be important. But I just want to remind the listeners, and actually before that, a couple of comments here were coming in thick and fast while we were speaking. Yakobo says, Okoth Jarapogi in an interview told me that they are fashioning some ohangla to sound like rumba. Ohangla is a Luo tune that might be influenced by outside genres, but it is very Luo. And I can see Brian Nyamu is in the building. Brian Nyamu, karibu sana. And then Yakobo says, Jojo say this is why VP Simaro left TP. Say this is why the VP Simaro left TPOK Jazz. Franco went political and full-blown money-minded. And then Slayapa says, some of these musicians I only know because of my parents. Okay? Hapo the 90s kids are coming in. And then Yakobo is saying Seben was enhanced. And then anasema tumefika hapa na hatujataja Madilu mahali. Huyo Jojo atafanya book isinunuliwe. That's the reason why you have to buy the book. Actually, the interesting thing about the book is that all these names that you knew, and even those ones you don't know, I can guarantee you they've all been mentioned in that book. We can't give you everything.
Lakini
you have to buy the book.
Lakini Madilu hata hatujafika hapo.
Hatujafika hapo.
Madilu kwenye generation.
Yes, it's generation bado inasonga.
But now you have to buy the book to get all these other juicy details.
The juicy details,
yes.
The meat and the potatoes.
Slay kinunua kitabu anaweza akakumbuka parents.
Hapo sasa. Hapo sasa. Now, I want to remind the listeners that you tuned into the One Mic Show, and of course I'm your co-host and producer Ali Badawy. We are talking to Jojo Kilimanjaro, a pioneer of the Kenyan music promotion in the US. He's also the author of Rumba Evolution, a book that traces how African rhythms traveled to Cuba via slave ships, then evolved and returned to shape the golden era of rumba in Congo, Tanzania, and Kenya, of course, before being disrupted by foreign influences. He has a book launch ceremony next Friday, March the 7th from 7 p.m. at the Cedar Cultural Center at 416 Cedar Avenue, Minneapolis, Minnesota. So please RSVP. We're going to be posted. I don't know whether we've posted it, but Jojo, if you can, just post it on the YouTube comments. The book is also available on Amazon. So please grab your copy, or you can get an audio version of it. And we'll shortly be talking about the tribalization of Kenyan music and why new urban genres failed to move beyond Kenyan borders. So stay tuned for that. We're going to understand that connection and disconnection part. Our lines are open. The number to call, 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. Feel free to call in. Then, of course, you have to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and all other places we're in at One Mic Show.
X.
Yeah. And X, we are getting there. We are getting to X. We're not quite there.
We are still X'd out.
Yeah, we are still X'd out, but we're gonna get there.
You
But
gonna X
remember,
blackout?
yes, but remember on the YouTube page especially to like the video and also subscribe. Make sure you subscribe and share this video. Make sure all other people are getting these gems that you can only get in no other place but
The One Mic
the
Show.
One Mic Show. Now,
Wakumbushe number to call.
yes, number to call again, 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. I guess people have started chattering here on Facebook. Once again, Slay is being told that her age is showing. I don't know exactly what that means, Washeke. Yes, and then hapa Steven JJ anasema ndani ya nyumba. Karibu sana Steven JJ, umechelewa kidogo, but the show is going on. And then Yakobo is talking about Genzish. I don't know.
That was for Slay, and Slay replied and said,
okay.
You know, she's not Gen Z.
Okay. I got it. Okay.
Yep.
And then hapa Yakobo anasema umeanza utauliza kama Majimaji Rebellion pia iko huko.
Promotion by Gen Z.
And then
Kama Omosh Gen Z ilikuwa ni before imeanza tena A up to this is it.
Oh, the previous Gen Z.
The previous Z.
Before this one.
Ikaja A.
Okay.
Alright.
Then Upper Slay is saying, I have a whole collection. And Juliet AO says, my dad used to play Franco and Pepe Kale early morning before going to work. And then Washeke anasema tupatie alternatives for buying the book. We are boycotting Amazon. Okay.
EI.
Now this right here, I don't know.
Jojo says he has some things in his
Physical
house.
copies.
Yeah.
He has some things in his house. Maybe he'll give you.
Yeah, so I think
He'll give you his address. You
yes,
show up.
yes. So I
and then
think
he
you can
signs
get it from Jojo directly, and Jojo is gonna leave his details down here in the comment section so that you can make that connection to get the book, and it may have some scribbling up on Bele. What do people call it? Is it a signature or autograph?
Autograph.
Yeah, it may have that, and then of course those who are gonna be in
Kama na namba
Minneapolis.
anaweza akasema tuweke hapo.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Minneapolis, Minnesota, make sure you attend the book launch. There will be a live band on that book launch. So,
My friend Innocent Galinoma Mfalingundi.
okay.
Oh yeah.
But what?
Innocent Galinoma Mfalingundi.
Okay, sawa. So those who are only if you attend, you'll be able to see that. And then Upper Slay anasema, my dad used to keep them and was not able to get anything. I grew up on Zaiko Langalanga, Pepe Kale, Madilu, and Wenge Muzika or someone. I remember Pepe Kale did this very famous song. After that, Cameroonian team did well in the 1990 World Cup. Roger Milla.
Roger Milla.
Roger Milla.
Roger Milla.
Yes. Maka.
Makanaki.
Yeah,
Makanaki.
you know, that's something that's still in my memory.
You forgot that song of his. My daughter.
Oh, of course, that one too. That one too. And then Pepe Kale had another short guy.
Emoro.
We used to dance for him.
Emoro.
Yeah, we remember this.
And then
we
Emoro
remember
had a
this.
Chile also.
They used to perform at a place
Papi
called
Tex. We're talking about Rumba. Papi Tex.
yeah, Papi Tex. Huyo hapo bado sijamsikia.
No, Papi Tex was a guy who had a
Tex.
box. Alikuwa na
no,
box kama
no,
ya
no,
ule
no.
mse wa cameo.
Okay. Because these guys used to perform at a place called Hillock. I think ilikuwa karibu na, was it near JKIA? There's some place called Hillock in Nairobi where they used to perform a lot.
Garden Square.
Now back to you, Jojo. Before we get lost, because now we're at the point where the people have escaped. A lot of these musicians have fled because of Mobutu. The Tanzanian version of Rumba is now growing because now you have musicians, Congolese musicians in Tanzania who are also now adopting to the tastes in Tanzania. Actually, before I come to Jojo, maybe I want Bandio to briefly talk about that because Congolese music was also very popular. Nowadays, people identify Tanzania with bongo, but this type of music that was imported from Congo was very popular at some point in Tanzania. So just briefly talk about that period when there was started being an influx of Congolese artists into Tanzania.
Well, at that time, I think what happened, because mostly it was jazz. So you see, it was Jiwata Jazz Band, it was Vijana Jazz, it's either jazz or orchestra. And like I said, the influence of that with traditional music, adding strings and saxophones to it, and the messaging was the biggest thing, and songs about liberation. Remember Tanzania, this quote-unquote center for it, so liberation, Mozambique and South Africa and stuff, that really grew, and we only had one recording station, and that was Radio Tanzania, right? Which was different. Omosh talk about, the recording studios. Actually, this is how we even lost Mbaraka Munshe.
Yes.
Who
Road
went
accident.
Yes, road accident. Went to Kenya to record, and then we lost him for that because he was searching for that quality. If you listen to Mbaraka Munshe, he used to record in Kenya, and then you listen to Remy Ongala, who used to go to UK. Right?
I was a grown-up when I came to know that Remy Ongala was actually a Tanzanian. I never knew he was Tanzanian.
It was a Congo.
Yeah.
He was a Congolese.
Oh, Congolese.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, so he was actually Congolese.
Yes, he was a Congolese. Related to
Yes, he was Congolese, yes.
Tonton Makase.
Okay. Oh, yeah. I meant he was Congolese. Yeah, I was grown up, because I always
Most
knew
people
Remy
thought he
Ongala.
was from Songea, Tanzania, and he was not.
Yeah.
So those are the people who came in. I mean, Ndala Kasheba, and they brought string to Tanzanian music.
Okay.
So that was, I think this is when It became really, really popular. Like the book say, it wasn't until like 1991 when they started privatizing recording studios. That's when the MJ Studios and all these studios came in to life. But I think one thing that most people in TZ related to was the use of strings that they came with.
Okay.
If you watch people like Remy Ongala, it was very popular, and his 12 guitar, acoustic or Galatoni.
Yeah.
Who else? Baraka Mwinshe,
Yeah.
Ndala Kasheba. Strings were the thing back then.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Sasa, Jojo, going back to you, what was the main difference? Because Tanzanian music was also evolving. It had that influence of rumba. And of course, there was also an evolution in Kenya. And of course, we can see also on YouTube, DJ Banti is here. Thank you so much for tuning in, DJ Banti. DJ Banti is talking about the hype man, Myoka
Mayoka
or Mayoka Longo. And then evolving is the word, I think, talking about how that music has been changing. Now, this evolution, what was the difference between how it evolved in Tanzania? Because Tanzania still had that foreign influence, but Tanzania kept a certain local touch where there might have been some difference on how it was evolving in Kenya. So talk to us, what really is happening and what are the differences between how this music is evolving. Apple, we are in the 70s, maybe going towards the 80s.
So in Tanzania, Julius Nyerere plays a critical role in the development of the music scene. Remember, the system here is socialist, and he needed to get to the people kwenye vijiji vya ujamaa kule. So a lot of times they used nationalistic music to get to the people. So a lot of the programming on Radio Tanzania, Dar es Salaam, was political. But they also introduced this music element so that people can be entertained. And they also realized that it's the best way to infuse politics and to reach the masses. So in Tanzania, there was quarters. I remember from the festival that happened in Kenya, was it the Furaha Festival where Diamond did not perform?
Mm-hmm.
So later he talked about how music should just let whatever people like, let that happen. But he, like many other young people who have not taken the time to research, Tanzania protected its local music. And even the Congolese who came in had to sing in Swahili.
Yes.
Wow.
And they did not even pretend like the Congolese that came to Kenya with Batoto ba Nairobi.
Yeah, Batoto ba Mungu.
They spoke fluent Swahili.
Yes.
Okay?
Wow.
That's why the music that came from there, sometimes we couldn't even tell that the singers were Congolese, including
Remy Ongala.
Remy Ongala and Karubandika.
Yep.
We didn't know that those were Congolese musicians.
So these guys had to go to Tanzania and they had to learn the language.
Actually, the
Yes,
process was
OneMic.
Yeah.
process was you compose the music, you take to RTD, which is Radio Tanzania Dar es Salaam.
Uh-huh.
They will go through it.
Wow.
Yes, edit before you're allowed to record it. That's why there was very few songs that were not Swahili spoken. And I remember those were like liberation songs about like Nelson Mandela and other songs. Other than that, Niswa.
So it was enforced.
Yes, if you can sing, then play the instrument. Lakini hakukuwa na nyimbo nyingi za.
Okay, but sasa Bandio, at this time, before I come back to you, Jojo, hao watu wametoka Kinshasa na Wakongole wa Kinshasa hawazungumzi Kiswahili. Wao ni wasemaji wa Lingala. Wa Eastern Congo wanazungumza Kiswahili.
Yes.
So did they come
Actually,
and learn
most of them
Kiswahili?
came from Swahili speaking.
Oh, so most of them came
Most
from the
of them,
Swahili
yes.
part, okay,
If you
of
listen
Congo.
to- yes.
Okay.
Sikiliza wengi walikuwa wanatokea those
Okay,
places.
okay, quite interesting. Jojo, back to you.
Yeah, and then the fact that the musicians were on payroll played a great part in developing Tanzanian music. So I remember bands like DDC Mlimani Park Orchestra even had tour buses.
Yes.
So the government was really involved in
Back
one way
then.
or another. The government and its what we might call parastatals in Kenya were involved in developing that music and sound. So there's the muziki wa dansi or Tanzanian rumba it sounds kind of like Congolese rumba, but it's more laid back. Kuna ule Uswahili, you know, the coastal people like to take it easy. That element is in there. That's why you can distinguish Kenyan rumba versus Tanzanian rumba, because the Tanzanian one is more laid back, and the messaging is more about life. You know, advice about life. Waheshimu wazazi. You know, nimemtuma sijui ni mshenga. You know, it's more a lot about.
So there was social consciousness
storytelling
in their music.
Yes.
There was social
Yeah.
consciousness in their music.
Yeah, so they transferred our traditional way of communicating through stories into the music.
Okay.
Okay, so if you listen to their music, it's a lot of about advice and everyday life.
Kasongo, eh.
Heshimu wazazi.
Wazazi.
So
Salamu kwa wajomba, shukrani kwa wazazi.
Yes.
shukrani kwa wazazi.
Yeah.
Na washukuru wazazi wangu. I
wazazi
remember
wangu.
Milimani
Mlimani Park
Park Orchestra. Well, that was one of the most popular
Okay.
songs. Even the love songs like Neema,
Neema.
you know, and the other, si kama ile ati oh nikikumbuka
Nilimkaribisha nyoka.
silali sikuli ugali sijui nini, you know. it's more advice, yani tabia,
Okay.
you know. Heshimu wageni wangu wakifika.
Yeah, and you know,
Yeah.
and it's interesting because we saw that system of socially conscious music even move to more modern day artists, the likes of Professor J. And now in the bongo flavor, like you'd still see some. I mean, of course, things have been changing over time, but you'd still see, you know, like that socially conscious music. You'd still see it with a lot of modern day artists. So you talked about Tanzania and I believe in Congo having some sort of protection on their music industry, but Kenya, on the other hand, what was happening? Is it that there was no proper structures, or was it an influx of foreign music? What different was happening in Kenya as compared to what was happening in Tanzania and Congo?
So in Kenya is actually the opposite of Congo and Tanzania. The government was not involved, not interested in promoting music. So you can't separate that from the fact that when the Congolese arrived in the 70s, they were able to get airplay on government radio stations. I think that they could not do in Tanzania initially unless they learned English and the you know,
Swahili.
their music has been passed,
Yeah.
you know. So when they arrived in Kenya, and basically they came to Kenya because of it was more stable politically, and there was a lot of studios in Nairobi that were world class back then. Okay, a lot of you may not know that Kenya had the Polygram, the only vinyl pressing plant in Eastern Central Africa. So a lot of musicians used to come to Kenya to record. So these Congolese arrived in the 70s, and there's all these studios that they could just get in and record. And their brand of music combined with high fashion and stagemanship stole the show. People just fell in love with that. So if you take that, and the fact that Kenyans just love foreign things, and the fact that the government didn't care, and there was no protections for the local music, piracy went rampant, our music went down. Now in the 50s, 60s, 70s, we had Kenyan superstars like Daudi Kabaka. There's never been a Kenyan superstar bigger than Daudi Kabaka, because Daudi Kabaka's music was everywhere. mjini na mashinani. Unaelewa? Fadhili Williams music was everywhere. So nilikuwa nikisikia anti yangu akiimba Taxi Driver, najua chapo zinapikwa leo. Unaona? And the music went everywhere in the country. So ukiwa Nairobi ama uwe Mombasa, utasikia, na uwe mashinani utasikia Fundi Konde, utasikia Fadhili Williams, utasikia Daudi Kabaka, utasikia John Mwale. And this is before independence. Nobody cared about tribe. Music was everywhere. And even after independence, music was a unifying factor. You know, there were songs that were meant to unify the country, kama Harambe Harambe, Kenyatta liteswa sana. You know, so that's the big difference. In Kenya, you don't see, apart from Maroon Commandos, which was supported by the army, it was a military band.
Yes.
There was no rumba band that lasted for long. Because TPOK jazz is not Kenyan. I'm talking about the Kenyan scene.
The Kenyan scene, yeah.
Virunga, Samba Mapangala?
That's Congolese. I'm talking about the Kenyan bands.
Yeah, because I think
they were in Kenya. We are saying they're Kenyan bands.
No, they were not. You know, like yes, they were still. But is this the point where we are starting to have an identity crisis between Benga and Rumba? Oh, no, Jojo, ngoja kidogo Micah. Nasema, is this the point where we are starting to have an identity crisis between what's Kenyan Benga and Rumba? Because why did Benga kind of start struggling when this Rumba sound arrived?
Oh my goodness. So, okay. The biggest kick to Kenyan music was the emergence of tribal politics.
How?
This is so serious, but people don't know about it. But for the Kenyans who are there, wapo kwa studio, ni watu wangapi hapo wako na mziki kutoka kwa tribe ingine?
What exactly do you mean?
For example,
I see where he's going. Okay,
yeah.
But
forget about Swahili music, English music, wachana hizo. If you're from one tribe, how many songs from another tribe do you have on your playlist? Kwa playlist yako ukiangalia, ni ngoma ngapi unazo ambazo si za Kiswahili, si za Kizungu na si za tribe yako?
I think another simple way of asking that question is whenever you know, like an ethnic artist comes to the US, let's say Samido for the Kikuyus, or Prince Inda for the Luos, who do you see in the crowd? You know, like who's the majority of the crowd that goes to see? Let's talk about Samido, because we've all here attended a Samido. Who's in the crowd? I think that's a question you're asking.
But at least Samido body ilikuwa na very mixed crowd.
No, Samido ni muziki ya Kikuyu.
So most definitely
ni Mkikuyu, lakini ile show yake ya Baltimore ilikuwa na very big crowd.
There was a mix, but overwhelming
majority ni wa Kikuyu.
Yes, so I think that's what Jojo here is.
No, I understood Jojo.
So what I want exactly pali mvua ilianzia.
Okay.
After independence, 3 or 4 or 5 years after independence, when before independence and right after independence, the country was united because we had a common enemy, the colonialists. Then right after independence, ukikumbuka, you know, these musicians walikuwa wanaimba nyimbo ambazo went across the country, one, and two, a lot of people may not know that even Kikuyu bands used Luo musicians. At our Wakamba, when it came to Benga, it's the Luos who did the guitar playing. So hakukuwa na shida hapo. After independence, when the first Kenyatta na Jaramogi walikosana, hapo ndio shida ilianzia. So hiyo kitu ilikuja ikakuwa so political that it affected watu walikuwa wanafanya kazi in the government. It affected the venues that were mostly owned by Kikuyus and did not allow Luo bands to play. I don't think a lot of you know that. Now, they instead opted for Congolese or Tanzanian. Remember, there's Tanzanian bands that moved to Kenya. Simba Wanyika na Mbaraka Mushe.
Okay. Simba Wanyika is what became Les Wanyika.
Became Les Wanyika.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not became, but it was a splinter.
It was a splinter.
Yeah,
Okay.
It was a splinter group.
Okay. And
Na sasa ulikuwa ukisikiza Airwaves,
Mhm.
the Benga ilikuwa imetolewa ikakuwa replaced na Lingala and Tanzanian music. There was Les Wanyika played everywhere.
So what era are we talking? Are we in the 80s or in the 90s?
So now we're in the 80s.
Okay.
I mean, in terms of muziki kutolewa, imeanza 70s.
Yeah.
Naona, imeanza 70s.
Okay.
Vile nini wanaingia. The political divide is deepening in the late 60s and 70s. So now the politics penetrates and affects the music, that now musicians became relegated to only playing in the neighborhoods. So a big act like Dio Misiani used to play in Nairobi had to go back to Kisumu and play at a bar there.
Wow.
Because in Nairobi, it was even difficult for him to find a venue. Acheze hapo. Because a lot of them, politics imeingia sahi, venue iko na Mkikuyu, bendi ya Mjaluo icheze hapa. Hii ni history ambayo tuna need kujua where it all started.
Wow. This is I don't know, like this is one of those things where you don't even know, like when you don't know something existed, you don't even know where to look for it. So we are seeing things happen currently in the music scene, and most people have no clue that these things slowly started in the 70s until up to where it is right now. So it's not something that happened overnight. A couple of comments here coming. Our glass figure says, thanks for breaking it down because this is very informative. Music brings the world together, but we never take time to do research and we never even ask questions like when and how this was produced. Jacobo says, so when did Rumba shift to Benga in Kenya? I think we're still talking about that. And then TPOK, when did Rumba shift to Benga in Kenya? You're going to talk about that. And then TPOK, Adhiambo says TPOK was the primary name for Franco band. And then this says, yeah, before you talk about Samido or Prince Inda, talk about the pioneers like Ochieng, Kabasele, Joseph Kamaru, and the likes. And then we have Tabitha and Jerry, all the way from Houston, Texas. She says, this episode is so informative. Eyes opened. And Slay says, yes, it is. Yakobo says, wewe ni encyclopedia, unajua mziki. And then it says, kina Diomasiani, George Ramogi. And then Tabitha is asking, what's the name of the book again? That means Tabitha wants to buy the book. And again, the name of the book is Rumba Evolution, RUMBA. And it's on Amazon. Make sure you get your copy. There's going to be a book launch next week at the Cedar Cultural Center in Minneapolis, Minnesota, 416 Cedar Avenue. Make sure you RSVP to attend the event, and there will be a live band at the event. So make sure, and for those who are boycotting Amazon, Jojo, please type your contacts hapo kwa Facebook and YouTube, so that people can contact
DM
you directly.
They can DM you.
Yeah, so that you can, you can exchange, if you need to exchange money, if you need to do barter trade, or if you need to exchange other things, and then you send them the book, and then they give you the cowrie shells or whatever they're gonna give you in
someone
exchange.
can cut your grass.
Yeah.
And you give them a book.
Yes, something like that. Yeah. So quite profound. People want to buy this book. They want to read it. I'll tell you, it's very compelling. Whatever we are discussing here, this is all surface level. As profound as it is so surface level. If you want to get the details, go into the book, because I was finding difficulty. Hata nilikuwa nasema, Jojo, what is he talking about? How is there a connection from Cuba to New York and then to World War II, African soldiers, and then we come back to Africa, and then we have you say you wanted to ask something. Yes, we have a special guest in the studio who also has a question. She was not initially, she was camera shy. She did not want to appear, but because the conversation is so compelling,
it is so hot.
Yeah, it is so hot. I'm gonna let her introduce herself, her name, maybe where she's originally from, and then talk to us. And don't get too excited. Let's go ahead, Zanele.
Hello. Oh, is it too loud?
No, we can hear you loud and
We
clear.
can hear you.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
Hi, everyone, all over the place. And thank you for welcoming me today. And also, thank you, Mr. Jojo, for your time, and thank you for breaking it down for us. It's been very, very informative, because we love music. Music brings us all together in one place. And without that being said, we don't really deep dive in to find out exactly where the music is coming from and who made it, and how all those questions we never asked for ourselves for. So thank you for taking your time and writing the book. And I'm the one who's interested in buying it, or maybe I can start walking to get to
Minnesota
to go and grab it myself.
If you start today, you'll get there by the time the book launch is happening.
Okay.
All right.
Maybe I can bring a bike too sometime or something like that.
All right, good. And then remind the listeners who maybe are seeing you for the first time, what's your name?
Yes.
What part of Africa are you originally from?
Yeah,
And that
because
kind
you
of
sound
thing.
like you sound like
You sound Kenyan.
Yeah,
you sound
Kenyan,
like you're supposed to be in Kenya, but
they might be somewhere.
yeah.
Yes, you get that right. Originally, first of all, my name is Zanele Magwaza, very, very popular last name in South Africa. And I was born in Johannesburg, grew up in KwaZulu-Natal. So right now I am based, I'm a Zulu girl. Right now I'm based in the USA, in Maryland, Rockville.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Welcome to the show.
All right. Welcome to the show. And then, there's something that you're planning to start at some point. Please talk about it for like a minute.
Of course.
And then we're going to send you an invoice after the show. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I do a lot of things. So I have like 2 businesses that is going on right now. I do, I'm one, I don't know if you notice on the comments, my name is Hourglass Figure over there. That's the company that I'm a CEO of it.
Okay.
And I'm having a podcast coming in soon.
Okay.
Yes.
From Kilimanjaro Studios.
From Kilimanjaro Studios.
Okay.
Yes. We're gonna have a lot of more. So stay tuned, subscribe, and we're gonna have more. You keep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Keep your.
Now, quickly, in South Africa, is there any Kenyan music that any South African listen to? Any rumba, anything? Be honest. That's okay.
Honest.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So, what kind of Kenyan music are South Africans listening to? Any artist? I think that gives us an answer. I think that gives us an answer. No, it's okay. It's okay.
I'm trying to really remember very well all of them, but honestly, we South African, we really kind of like really diverse, and we welcome every music. And most likely, I think he spoke about Fela Kuti. In South Africa, it was kind of like part of like Nigeria kind of help colonize.
But I've been to South African parties, especially the days when house was very popular.
Yeah.
You guys would play house from 7 p.m. to 7
until
a.m.
until the house fell down.
And if someone dares to suggest playing a reggae song, you will even be kicked out of that party. And it was dancing from the beginning to the end.
Yeah, we danced the
There was
whole
no
night.
joke.
There's no joke. We on our feet the whole day.
It's
the whole
serious
night.
business.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they don't stop.
Okay. All right. Okay, that's good. So Jojo Meona, we have, like even people from South Africa who are getting some very compelling tidbits from what you're talking
Knowledge.
about. And like I said, this is all surface level. You have to purchase the book. I have placed the links.
The book is good.
Yeah, I placed the links on the comment section on Facebook. The book has details that we cannot even cover tonight, because if we were to cover all those details, we would be staying here, I think, until 6 a.m. In the morning. So upper there's a confusion, because Jacobo was talking about Benga and Rumba. So is Benga what influenced Rumba, or Rumba influenced Benga? There's some kind of identity crisis here, like when it comes to this Kenyan music. And of course, we've been talking about now the airwaves being occupied by music from other places. Jojo.
Okay, let me clarify that. Benga is native Kenyan music that originated from the shores of Lake Victoria. It started with the traditional instrument, the orutu. So when the guitar arrived, the Leo musicians adapted that sound to the acoustic guitar or the box guitar. We also call it the dry guitar. And then when the electric guitar came, they moved the sound to the electric guitar. Now, at some point, to be more appealing and be able to compete with the Congolese, some of the Rumba sounds from Congo were incorporated into Benga. But Benga is a Kenyan sound.
Benga is a Kenyan sound, okay.
Kenya is a Benga sound that started from around Lake Victoria. And almost every region had some really popular Benga bands, except the coast. The coast stuck with a Rumba. But from the shores of Lake Victoria, you had Dio Misiani. But Dio Misiani, what people don't know, who's thought of as the king of Benga, was actually Tanzanian. He was not Kenyan.
Correct. From Shirati.
He was from Shirati.
Okay. Wow. And now
so you have bands like Victoria Kings, Kolela Maze. That's from the Luo region. Then you come to Kisii, you had people like Monyoncho, you go to Kambani, there was Kaikai Kilonzo and Kilimambogo Brothers. That's all Benga.
Okay. And now this influence, of course, the influence is coming from the Congolese side to East Africa, to both Tanzania and Kenya. Was there anything that the Congolese picked from us, or was this all one-way traffic? Like we're picking up from them, but there's nothing they're picking up from us.
There's a unique sound that came from Kenya that combined Rumba with Benga. That is what musicians like Samba Mapangala did.
Vunja mifupa kama bado meno iko.
Go ahead.
Vunja mifupa kama bado meno iko.
Yeah, so if you listen to that song, it's not your typical Congolese Rumba song.
No, it's not. It definitely
it's a Kenyanized version.
Okay.
So that's the bands like Super Mazembe, Mangelepa, Viva Makale.
Yep.
So adapted that sound. It was basically a fusion of Rumba and Benga.
Wow. This is there's just so much here. I feel like I need a notebook to take down some notes.
Don't worry, the show is recorded.
Okay, all right. So we can go back and listen to it. Okay.
But you can't read the show like the book.
You can't read the show. You can't transcribe the show.
It's an audio book.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Facebook inakuwa na nini?
Okay.
YouTube.
Captions hapo chini.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
But Sasa, now, Jojo, let's come to the part where now we've talked about the ethnicization of Kenyan music, which is very tragic, and I think a lot of people in the industry don't quite have an understanding, like how deeply this affected Kenyan music. And then now there was the disaster of now piracy. River Road comes into play, and then there was there was rampant piracy that started now kind of destroying the commercial viability. I think we're in the 90s now, and that's why I was saying this was the point maybe where Rumba might have started fading, because like in the 90s, when some of us were coming out. I remember that time growing up.
Where were you coming out of?
That didn't sound right. Micah, did you hear that?
He was
It
coming
did
out.
not sound right at all.
He was coming out.
You
Where
guys,
were you
you
coming out of?
no, you guys don't understand this language.
Don't translate.
I don't
translate
blame you.
Swahili to English. Speak English.
English is like my third language.
My
So,
English inasemanga
so
when you were
please.
coming up.
as long as you guys understood, that's the most important thing. English is like my third language, and at least I know I speak better English than Trump, despite English being his first language.
Wow.
At the bare minimum.
Wow.
But at that time, I remember growing up, like the music, like when we were young, especially those of us growing in the city, all these musics, benga, rumba, lingala, this was old people music.
So you just put them in one pot.
We put them in one pot. In fact, to be honest, like to me, they were not different. So I could only distinguish ones where, of course, you could hear some Swahili, and then all these other songs, we put them all in one pot because we were out there.
My friend, that's the knowledge thing. Nikama, when you're in Africa, you feel everybody, Mzungu is from Europe, you can tell the accent in New York and in Louisiana when you're in Kenya,
especially those of us who grew.
you get.
Yeah, especially those of us who grew up in the city. We were tuned into American music.
Really?
Yeah, like we were. Yeah,
He was a hip hopper and an
I mean that was the environment that unfortunately that I was in.
That says a lot.
Like we were listening to Bone Thugs and Harmony. We're listening to Tupac Shakur.
Hata Tupac ali kulikuwa na vijana naitwa
Crisscross, yeah.
Jump,
Yeah.
Jump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Zanele. I think even Zanele identifies with this.
No,
Ask is the
because
Backstreet Boys.
there is a argument that is coming up right now that rap music was coming from South Africa. It's by Quincy Jones. I don't know if you saw that. And he was explaining to Kendrick Lamar last week.
Okay.
It's something new. So I don't know if you guys did a dive into that, because like I said, music is a big thing. It's bringing us all together, but we don't have time to really know exactly.
To know where the connection
yes,
is.
where the connection is.
Just know that everything is coming from Africa.
Yeah, yeah. But back to Jojo, like this time is when, because now us growing up, like that music when tunaisikia, tunajua hizo ni muziki za wazee. This is old people music. In fact, if you go to an event and you dare play, like a song, you will be kicked out, because that time people were dressing like crisscross. Jeans umevaa mbele iko nyuma na nyuma iko mbele. So, like this music, and I'm just being honest now, any kid growing up in the neighborhoods that we grew up in Nairobi at the time, we were just not, this was just not our music at all. So Jojo, talk about that a bit and how it affected the future of Kenyan music.
So I also grew up in, in Nairobi, and I'm seeing all this, these things happening. In Kenya, there was one radio station owned by the government, Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. Before that, it was VOK, right? There was the Swahili service, and there's the English service, right? A lot of the urban kids from the wealthier neighborhoods listened to the English service and knew nothing about native Kenyan music, nothing at all.
True.
And the kids that listened to the Swahili service were fed with a lot of Congolese music and Tanzanian music. So the Kenyan music element now, before that, Benga was the most popular, Benga, and before that, Twist, were relegated to the countryside. Hiyo kwa sasa ni muziki ya mashinani. So now people have been, in the city, you're either listening to disco music or Lingala ama Rumba ya TZ.
But wacha nikate kidogo, Jojo.
Uh-huh.
For me, something that influenced my listening to music the most,
Yeah.
apart from the radio, was Music Time.
Fredo
Fredo
Mati
Mati
Machoka.
Machoka.
Yeah.
Yes.
And most of this music, we had it from his show. Most of this pop music, most of this hip hop music, we had it from his show. Like I remember that was a high. Music Time was a must. Lazima you watch. There will always be Kalenjin sisters. Hapo watapiga yake Kalenjin.
Katitu Boys Band.
Mosaimu wapiga yake moja aende. Kabaka na the Mushrooms wapiga Kiswahili. And maybe one of the other Rumba jazzes band. Alafu kuna Shalamwana ama Franco anapiga yake Samsukusi pigwe, but then bado kulikuwa na a Whitney Houston, Vanilla Ice au Criscos, like kulikuwa kunaitwaje, then kulikuwa na reggae zipigwe kama mbili, like it was a mix of it, but then most of that modern music, that's where we, because of the video aspects of watching the video. So when KBC was the only music show, ilikuwa tunaona Music Time na Utna, that's where we could get the music during for TV. But then you're right, for the radio, then we'll listen to both services. Time ya news mnarudi Kiswahili, because lazima msikie moyo akifuta mtu kazi. Alafu mnarudi kusikia vipindi kaki na Sundown, and now depending on how you're old, what your older siblings are into, reggae time, Sundown na nini tukaito.
Okay. So before we go to you, Jojo, there's someone who's called. If you want to speak, please press *5. There's someone who's called. What's the last four numbers, Bandio? There's someone who's called
9503.
Last four numbers 9503. If you want to speak, press *5. And back to you, Jojo. Just to piggyback on what Micah said, remember also in this time in the 90s, KTN has come into being. And remember, KTN is only in Nairobi and a few of its environs. And there's this show that Jimmy Gadu has. Rastrat, Rhythmics,
Jamadelic,
yes, and now people are now completely leaving these other kinds of music, and now they're getting exposed to mostly American music. So Jojo, back to you.
So kuna ile place moja tulikuwa tunafaa kurudi where piracy iliingia ka destroy Kenyan music.
Okay.
So River Road was the heartbeat of Kenyan music. Na around River Road kulikuwa na studios na music labels mpaka zingine international. Kulikuwa na Polygram, which ilikuwa I believe ni Belgium ama Denmark. Sangine mi confuse hizo mbili. Because Polygram was a merger of Polydor na Philips. Where is Philips from?
Dutch, I think.
How?
Philips is Dutch.
You know? So kulikuwa na hiyo nini kubwa sana that brought everybody to Nairobi kurecord na kupress hizo vinyl. And then there was a local element. Kenyans owned a lot of music labels, especially Benga ones. One of the most popular producers, Benga producers, alikuwa anaitwa Oloch Kanindo. So Oloch Kanindo alikuwa na label yake ambayo aliproduce so much music that even used to be exported. Right now in Zimbabwe, Benga music is called Kanindo music.
Wow, so that came from Kenya. That came from Kenya. From the Kenyan producer.
In Zimbabwe, it's called Kanindo music after Oloch Kanindo, the Kenyan producer.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
So back in the day, ukiwa kina Daudi Kabaka, Fadhili Williams, the studios, the labels. Like, we were one of the most progressive music countries. But then, because of this tribalization of the country and lack of protection, intellectual property protection, a lot of the labels left, the local ones went out of business, and the local music industry just died. It just died. And the tribal politics became so endemic that you in certain places you couldn't even play Benga music at all. And that gave rise to tribal superstars, if I may use that.
What do you mean by tribal superstars? Give us examples maybe so that we can understand.
So it's in Kenya, it's almost unheard of for a Ohangla musician to be playing in Moranga, performing in Moranga.
True.
Okay?
True story.
True story, right?
True story. True story.
Or a one-man guitar musician performing in Nyando. It's just not happening.
True story. Yeah.
So even in me, the divide and rule that was brought by the British colonialists, a lot of the politicians that took over and continued with that, has totally destroyed our music industry. A lot of the times we don't even know about it, because we don't talk about it. So now, I don't know whether it was intentional or not, the mushrooming of vernacular radio stations. Ikafanya, now tribes have their own stations. Why should they bother, going to other places?
They have their own comfort zone.
In the book Nasema, when Diamond releases a song or Fally Ipupa releases a song, it goes to everybody in those respective countries. Diamond akitoa ngoma, it goes to the 60 million Tanzanians because hawana ukabila vile kwa hiyo kitu, na they understand that music because amedandia kwa foundation ya wale walikam before hao. They understand it.
There's a connection.
There's a connection. Ukija Kenya, Genge has no connection to anything.
Okay, let's pause there.
Kapuka haina connection to anything.
Okay, Genge, Kapuka, urban tone, these new genres. Let's pause there. We're going to talk about them. There's someone who really wants to ask you a question. He's on the phone. Bandi, what are the last four numbers?
Last four numbers, 9503. Thank you for calling OneMic show.
Tell us your name and where you're calling from, and then talk to us.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jacobo Simba from the city of the champions, Super Bowl champions, Philadelphia.
Okay. Wow. All right. Okay.
Wow. He needed to let us know.
Thank you, Jacob.
Yeah. Commanders were close. We came close, but next season tutakutana.
Close and winning are two different things, my friend.
Okay. All right. Talk to us, Jacobo. Big fan of Rumba and Benga. Talk to us.
Big fan. I am a big fan, and in fact, I'm glad that you post George. First of all, let me preface this by saying a big thank you, because even in the chat I was saying we do a poor job of accounting for our history. So you doing it in a book is a fantastic thing. So I want to thank you for that. And from the presentation you've been giving here, it's well researched. So I want to thank you for that off the shoot. But the last point that you made before I was cued in, I have to ask. But the same can be argued about very many African countries. Tribalism and divide and rule happened everywhere. Yet, a lot of these countries' music are thriving more than Kenyan music. So what could you say to that before I go to the other questions I had? Thank you.
So, in Tanzania, there was government intervention. In Kenya, there wasn't. In Congo, there was. In Kenya, there wasn't. In Mali, there was. In Senegal, there was. I don't know much about South Africa, but you can see the connectivity from traditional music to township music to Kwaito and then to the modern sounds now, amapiano. Okay, in Kenya, that connection is not there.
It's not there. Yeah,
it's not there at all. So you start with, let's say, benga. What modern musician or band is embracing benga?
Can we say Sauti Sol? Can we say Sauti Sol? Ama Sauti Sol is an exception.
So Sauti Sol is trying, but Sauti Sol, that's why I was so happy when Ben said that on the album he's working right now, he's gone back and done research, and he's gonna have a lot of his Luya culture there. Can you imagine if he fuses R&B, because you need an international platform to go international. So you fuse R&B with Iskuti Olipala. That is what they did with, what was that song? Suranzuri or Surayako?
Surayako Nzuri Mama, yeah.
Surayako Muzuri Mama.
It's Luya sound. It's a modern Luya sound. That is what Kenya is lacking, is, you know, hiyo ndio hakuna. Ukisikia Afrobeats, imetoka kwa Fela na High Life. So there's a continuity. In Kenya, there's a total disconnection.
Okay, all right. Jacobo, does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you. That's a good question. That's a good answer. But in fact, I want to correct him a little bit that there's a lot of new and modern benga artists right now in Luoland. I can name very many. In fact, there's one that normally does every year, anaitwa nani? Huja mwenye anaimba kama anasema nyatima hero, si nani. Kuna wengi sana ambao bado wanapiga benga. But the other point that I wanted to make is one thing that you and OmoshFaya said earlier, that in the region, Kenya ndio sisi tunakuanga maonabi. Tunapenda kurukaruka. Hao watu wengine wametulia na bongo yao, hao wengine wametulia na sijui raga yao UG, hao wengine wametulia na ngoma zao. Sisi, we like to imitate too much. So could you talk to that? Because you're saying tribalism, and I see your point on that. But I think that also in Kenya, we just like not to appreciate ours too much. Another point that I want to connect to your point about protection from the government is that there was a lack of emphasis in Kenya. Early 90s, late 80s, there was a lack of emphasis on the arts. Ama career za kuimba, career za kupiga ngoma, career za kufanya kitu yote ambayo sio udaktari, kuwa wakili, ama kuwa daktari fulani, ama kuwa engineer fulani. No. So you find that there's not a lot of talent of people who can play the congas, people who can play guitar, people who can play the bass guitar. So there's that element to it as well. So could you speak to those 2 points? And then the last thing that I'm going to say before I leave the line, Rumba is not taking a backseat to anybody. There's very many artists that are now can film Symposia, Stadia, Peregola, Felix Ozeka, Barbara Kanam, Billy Ambel is still alive, Alpha Tess is still alive, Fali Pupa is still alive. So I think we're still in good hands.
Okay, thank you, Jacobo. Aya, Jojo.
Mbona hujasema Fela?
Bye, papas.
Maduri, hawezi tajwa watu wa Rumba wote naposema Fela Gore bana. Buda.
Aya, sawa. Okay, Jojo. Respond to Jacobo alafu tuendelee sasa. We're now slowly coming to a close to the part where we're going to be talking about Kenyan music, and this is the current music, because I think this is what a lot of people want to hear, to know what that disconnect, and you've been hinting at it, but twende Jojo, and then I'll come back to you.
Rumba is not dying.
Alisema Rumba is here to stay, you know, like it's not. I think he's disagreeing with you when you're saying that Rumba took a background to so many other genres of music in Kenya. I think he's kind of disagreeing with you. I think yeye ni fan wa Rumba sana, you know, so he's kind of in that mode of Rumba is still very big in Kenya.
Unajua nini?
Yeah.
You know what anasema? Sitaki kumpinga sana, because once kwa forum ya Rumba nilijaribu kusema, was Franco a singer ama rapper?
Where? That is sacrilegious.
But nilisikiza Franco doesn't really sing. Dalawa. Go listen to his music. Franco doesn't really sing. He's somewhere between rapping and singing. Lakini Rumba imekuwa overtaken na Afrobeats. That's true.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
Lakini it's not dying. Iko. There's a time when that's like the most popular African genre. It's not now. It's Afrobeats. And it's also sad to say that Congolese musicians have never really tried to understand the American market, because here in America, they've failed big time.
Yes. And I think Congolese musicians have been comfortable in Africa and in the parts of Europe where they are popular. So to them, and they make good money. So I think it's never been, America has never been a thing for them. They've tried, we've seen Fally Ipupa come here, because when you think Fally Ipupa is very big in Africa, but he cannot pull the crowds that a Burna Boy or a Davido will pull in New York or in any other major US city. So that's just the reality. Now, moving to these modern genres, you know, like beginning with, because now we have the new Kenyan genres that are coming up, Genge, Kapuka, and all these other variations that were coming at the time, eventually leading to Gengeton. You've been talking about the lack of connectivity. So this lack of connectivity you talk about, what is it in a lack of connectivity that makes it difficult for a genre to be accepted globally?
So one thing that everybody must understand is that music is a representation of culture. So when you're doing music, what part of your culture are you representing? What's the reason why in all these big festivals, there's never a Kenyan there? Because one of the main reasons why you don't see them is because a lot of our music is copycat music. And people, especially out of Africa, when they're inviting an artist here, they're expecting you to bring your culture with you. That's what they want to see, okay? They don't want to see an Africanized version of 50 Cent or whoever. That's where we go wrong. If we take this modern genre, because something like Kapuka was very danceable music. Like we used to play Kapuka, and even people who did not understand what it was would jump to it. But the thing, it was missing that cultural attachment, that cultural element. What is it that identifies it as Kenyan music? If they had taken that music and added that just benga guitar, because that benga guitar is so distinct, it's just Kenyan, I think it would have gone further.
Well, then,
go ahead.
I have an argument on that point.
Okay.
Because the thing is, as Kenya, we have never had our sound that's unique, right?
Yes.
Just the same way we've never had our traditional dress. We've never had a national food, right? Mm-hmm. We've always been, because of the tribalism, of course, we've always been a country that has several cultures and different cultures, and we've always shown on our different cultures how it is. Like, Wakikuyu wako na rurasho yao na vitu zao, Wafanya, Wajaluo wako na vitu zao, Waluya, Wakisii, Wamasai, and everybody has different things that they do. So it goes back to it does the same to our music. And mm-hmm. I think that these younger generations, right?
Yeah.
These younger generations that it is right in Kenya, vile wako sahi. Kenya sahi sheng inaongelewa country mzima. Kila mahali bako ushago.
Mhm.
Sheng si lugha ya Nairobi pekee, right?
Mhm.
So when they come up with their songs and they come up with what they're doing, and then as the older generation try to push them back, naambia hapana, hii ngoma yenu sound fit inafaa kusound hivi, because in our generation we've tried so much to fit in everywhere else because we didn't have anything single to recognize ourselves with. I feel like we are pushing them back because their sound can just be a Kenyan sound as it's known right now. Well, like inaweza continue sound ya Kenya, like that is it. We don't really need a unique thing. We have all these different things that we're doing, but when this generation does their urban tone, ama wafanye ilikuwa inaitwaje Gengeton, whatever they were doing. Remember Gengeton during pandemic, it transcended the whole world. It was playing everywhere. But there was a group of people who felt like it doesn't represent us kwa sababu si feel like ni kama sheng niko in touch na hiyo sheng vile iko sana, si feel vile mbona wanaija wanaimba hivi, mbona sisi tunaimba hivi different, Watanzania naimba hivi, mbona sisi naimba hivi different? Like, why don't we just let it be? That is, hiyo ndo sound inatoka Kenya. Whatever sound comes from Kenya and evolves. It's the same with America. Hip hop is a culture, but hip hop has been evolving over the years, regardless of the South. When the South is the one that is representing, ikikuja ni Northeast no represent, ikienda ni West no represent, whichever sound was hitting, was popping at that time, that was the representative of hip hop outside of the world. Why can't we just do that? The same thing that country does,
Okay,
or other
Jojo.
genres do.
Okay, Jojo, respond to Micah.
That's the exact reason why Kenyan music is not going international. Unakumbuka, hip hop ilianza New York, vile walianza, there was sampling R&B and other classics. So walidandia, okay? I've talked about how Afrobeats ilianza. Bongo flavor, ukiona hata Zuchu akiimba pale, kuna Uswahili, kuna tarabu, kuna nini, there's a certain swag, okay?
Yeah.
Music must have no, it mustn't have, but the elements that make music is the sound, the swag, and the dance.
Yeah.
Okay. Does it have a distinct sound? Yes or no?
If you listen to urban tone and gengetone has a distinct sound, utajua ni urban tone ama gengetone.
Now let me intervene here, and also let me give my perspective as a consumer. So Tanzania, for example, they have more tribes than Kenya, but all the people who are singing from the different regions of Tanzania, there is still a certain element that you're gonna hear, and you can tell this is a Tanzanian song.
Whatever bongo flavor ya wimbo Swahili, ngoma zao zimetoka.
Ngoja nimalize. So
Okay, I don't know if I
the
agree
thing
with
where, like, when we're talking about Gengeton, like going global, I think there's a couple of songs that went viral. And there's two different things between going global and going viral. Because going global means there's a sustainable sound. You see, like, if Burna Boy disappeared today, Afrobeat will still continue. If Davido disappeared today, Afrobeat will still
Focalistic piano.
will still continue. Same with Amapiano. So there's certain things, there's certain elements of Amapiano that you hear, despite the fact that we know South Africa has different languages and different communities, but there's a certain element of South Africanness that you can still feel in that music. I think me trying to understand, because I was in the same school of thought as Micah, but me trying, after reading what Jojo's book and trying to understand him, is that because of this disconnect, this unique sound keeps changing. Like what Kapuka sounded like, Gengeton is something entirely different. What other genres, these subgenres that popped up, they're all disconnected, so there's not enough time for them to marinate and people to feel like this is a Kenyan sound. One of the sounds that's marinating is the sound that Sauti Sol have, and you see Sauti Sol are actively trying to connect the music. Jojo, back to you.
Yeah, so the disconnect that's in the Kenyan music industry is because we are not intentional about embracing parts of our culture. Music is an integral part of culture, and you cannot have a sound that's national or international if there's no distinct elements that people can identify. Okay, so the music that's coming out of Kenya, first of all, we say Kenyan music is actually Nairobi music. You leave Nairobi, na mashinani ukifika ni benga. While a lot of Nairobi musicians are complaining juu ya do, wanamuziki wa benga, especially kule Ukambani, wanacheza clubs almost every day.
Yeah.
Unaona? So I'm not blaming these young musicians now wanafanya urban. In fact, there's a certain thing I like about urban tone. Urban tone, kitu ya kwanza, me notice ni dance. Nikiangalia hata kama wajafanya, the way they're dancing, I know these kids are Kenyan. So that's a really good thing. The other thing is they're sampling Genge music. All right. Also, Genge music had no
Connection.
Kenyan cultural foundation. At least they're going there. so there's some kind of a future with these young artists, and then they keep on changing the names. It's Genge to now this new kid.
No, they're totally different.
Yeah, okay, hold on. So this Gengeton came from Genge, okay, or influenced. Abanton is influenced by Genge, but they don't want to use the Genge, all right? And for me, Genge was not even a sound. To me, Genge was the storytelling kutoka mtaani. For the first time, nilisikia stories za mtaani that I've never had before, okay? Kapuka was more like just dance music. Lakini hii ilikuwa it gives you like a visual reflection of how the neighborhood was where you came from.
Yeah. So
that is what Genge was to me.
Kapuka was a bit upmarket neighborhood in Nairobi. Unaingia South C, Nairobi West. It was a bit of upmarket. Genge ilikuwa ni East Lando. Genge ni East Lando. Unaona
actually the difference between those two songs was based on studio. Kapuka ilikuwa ni watu wa Ogopa, Genge ilikuwa watu wa Kali.
Yes, and watu wa Kali ilikuwa ni watu wa East Lando. Watu wa Ogopa walikuwa ni watu wa South B, watu wa Nairobi West, watu wa South C. It was totally divided. It was totally divided by neighborhoods.
Remember that watu wa Badman Camp who walikuwa Ogopa wakatoka wali switch ngoma zao akaziita Genge.
So that was later
based on just whichever studio you are recording is where that music was coming from. So hiyo ndio ulikuwa unachagua unajicategorize wewe mwenyewe.
Yeah, and that was a bit later
but Genge ilitoka kwa watu vile Jojo amesema ilikuwa ni kina nonini watu wa mtaani, like ilikuwa kitu different, like ni gani yetu, Genge yetu. Because
unaona sasa kina Isa, because I grew up in Nairobi West, I could identify with Isa's music because hizo stories zao ni za watu wa Nairobi West, South C, and even when this group Badman Camp ejected themselves from Ogopa, it was just a feud that happened, wakajitoa na wakaingia Genge, but hao watu wa Badman Camp, kina Red Sun, I think kina Longombas, Longombas, Googs the Vilibanton were a bit unique because kina Googs were from Googs alikuwa ametoka Inako Umoja, but when you look at Nameless, when you look at the Longombas, those are all South Sea kids, do historians. Hao ni watu walikuwa Nairobi West, Nyashinsky, Nairobi West. So it was also, it also became, like kind of like a neighborhood thing. And part of the reason even watu walikata hiyo jina Genge and Kapuka came into being is because they wanted to separate themselves. But Jojo, back to you.
No, before Jojo.
Before Jojo comes in, I wanted to throw in a point. I threw in a point about Abanton, and that is why I'm insisting on this sound. It's like over the few years that I've been going back to Kenya, and every time I would go out, and even when last year we had Sunny on the here, remember there was one thing we were complaining, a lot of us were complaining, they don't play Kenyan music in the clubs, right? Abanton, right now, like the times I went out and the different places I went out, Abanton is played religiously. Ukwe ni mtu wa uptown, downtown, ghetto, wapi, Ocha, everybody is listening to that sound. All the young people have come up to pick up the song. Sijui kama ni maandamano ndio iliyoingiza kwa hiyo kitu ama ni nini, but something just made Kenyans, all of them identify to Abanton. And the beauty of Abanton is they are sampling everything. From Mugithi, warudi kwa ngoma za like we see, hata kina AJ wametoa Atoti the other day. Like they've sampled Benga, and you'll find also artists like kina BN, kina Charisma, kina Suda are all singing with these Abanton musicians. So basically everybody is merging with that that sound to work with it. And I read your book and I understood it, and I got your point when you said that lack of having a national voice is what has kept our music away. And when I started my delivery, I said one thing: the same way with our many tribes, we don't have a national dish like other countries. We don't have a national dress like other countries, because everything was divided. We've never had anything that we can say this is Kenyan. Maybe Tusker, okay, lakini pia ufight na Pilsner. So we've never really had anything that we can say this is Kenyan. In yetu ya Kenya, unaona. But then here right now, we are at a situation whereby we have a voice, we have a sound that actually we can push out. Because even if you look at urban, if you look at the Nigerian voice, what do you call it?
Afrobeat
ikitokea, there was very different versions of Afrobeats. Hata sahi kuna version mbili za Afrobeats. Kuna Ojapiano, which is Niger, and Amapiano that's mixed yenye kina Shakio Push, and then kuna irregular Afrobeat kina Davido na kina nani, kina wanaitwaje, kina Davido na kina Burna Boy, and then kuna hii kina Mobad na kina Naira Marley. So they have like three different sounds that they push, but at the end of the day, because our kila kitu ya wote kwa kisupport, we can do the same thing in Kenya. Instead of trying to look, it's too late for us to try to look for one voice.
Right.
We can refine our voice and mix it with our culture and send it out. That is a way of giving us better music. The way kina Shabuzi wamemix hip hop na country. Yeah, we can do that. Instead of saying like, let's look for just one common voice, right? It's too late.
Okay.
So let me ask you a question here.
Yeah.
And I still struggle with the definition of bongo flavor as a genre. And I'm not sure if it's the singer, has to be from TZ, if it's the language, or what Jojo said about mixing some stuff. Because if you get Zuchu's music, and let's say instrumental, and give it to Nadia to sing, would you call that bongo flavor?
If you get Zuchu's instrumental
and
give it Nadia to sing,
would you call that bongo flavor?
I'd call it Nadia's music.
If you get Focalistic, who's Amapiano, one of the great Amapiano, if you get the instrumental and give it to Diamond to sing, would you call that Amapiano? Yes.
So
Right?
you see, ngoja kidogo Jojo.
So if you get Davido's instrument,
Ngoja kidogo Jojo. There's a song that Diamond sang, ile godolo limeloweka maji ayo waiona hiyo.
Yes.
So that song, when you hear it, you can me until when he starts saying godolo limeloweka maji. So that's when you start hearing the Swahili, but you can feel that this has an Amapiano.
So that's my point.
Tune to it. Yes.
There's identity in Amapiano and Afrobeat in compa, which is what they sing nowadays.
Yeah.
What they call bongo flavor is compa, right? It's almost now 100% compa. If you listen to Mario's and those people, all they sing, if you just mute, right? If you mute you'll be like, this is compa, right?
Okay, yeah.
So that's my point. That's why I'm getting an issue when people say, bongo flavor is doing very well, and I ask myself, what is bongo flavor?
No, lakini I think so. Like just going back to what Jojo was saying, and I think umesema there's a caller. We're going to get to the caller. I think to what Jojo was saying is that with Kenyan music, let's be honest for a minute. As a Kenyan, if I hear all those different genres of Nigerian music, whoever is singing, even if it's a non-Nigerian singing it, but I can tell there's some Nigerian, there's some Afrobeatish element to this.
But that's what my point is.
So
like if you take Zuchu's most popular song, Sukari, the same song, same lyrics, give it to Nadia. Would you call that bongo flavor?
No, it's a Kenyan song.
No,
it's gonna be Nadia's song because at the end of the day, let's
Mika Ngoja, and we can agree to disagree.
Okay.
Where I'm disagreeing is that when an outsider is listening to these Kenyan genres, they have no way. If you randomly give an outsider these Kenyan genres, and you see like when you put Nadia on a bongo, or like when you put a bongo artist on an Amapiano, it's still Amapiano regardless of whether it's a bongo artist. But what I'm saying is that layer of music with the Kenyan music, we are inside the Kenyan music scene, so we understand it. But for someone who's coming from outside, who's just listening to that beat, they will have difficulty in
So
telling
that's my
that this
point,
is
Ali.
this is the Kenyan music, and I think that's what Jojo is talking
No,
about.
it's the same thing about Bongo
identity.
Flava.
Yeah,
If it
it's the
wasn't
same
for
thing
the,
about
if it
Bongo
wasn't
Flava.
for the local market,
Yeah.
and that's what I'm saying. Bongo Flava is popular because of the local market and because the stories are related to what's happening in the country, which is the same thing that Jojo said.
Yes.
Right? When they sing about, there's some very popular song nowadays from, I don't know the name of the artist, but it's all about what's going on in the country right now. But I don't see Bongo Flava as the music. It's just whether it's instrumental or whether we're playing the instruments, or if you take out the lyrics, nobody can really say this is Bongo Flava. You can play just instrument and say this is on a piano, right? You can have a 1 hour mix of on a piano. You can have 1 hour mix of Afrobeat.
Yeah.
If you take out all the stuff, you can play and say this DJ is playing 1 hour, non-stop of Bongo Flava.
Yeah.
Nobody will say that.
The thing is this, and the thing is
we're gonna
this,
pick up the call.
we also being too harsh on when you're saying it. Most of these musicians that we're listening to them right now are also trying to take a modern feel, but they're also trying to transcend their borders. So most of their music is an Afro fusion of something. It's not just a voice that you can say it's their voice. This is our voice. Even the Nigerian musicians, they've fusioned their sound to something modern. So I get what Bandio is saying.
Yeah, Micah, my point is we give too much credit to Bongo Flava.
And if you take out the musician, you will not recognize who that song is if you moved it to another side.
Yeah.
Because of that fusion that is coming in to get to that modern voice. That is why I'm saying, instead of trying to say that we are looking for a one voice right now, why don't we use in IT we use something? There's a process of working called IT, which usually tells you, instead of trying to spoil something and start from scratch, why don't you just start fixing from where you are?
I mean, it's not like we don't have it. In Bongo we have Singeli.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Originally from there, and it was a little popular, but it doesn't sell.
Lakini Bongo, before we go to the caller, Bongo has, and I think we are missing what Jojo is saying. Bongo, despite being, slightly, it still does have some connection. Bado utasikia Katara. Story-wise. But hata bado utasikia Katara. No, hata kuna sounds za Tara bado utasikia. Kuna certain sounds. Unaona kama Maria Salome ya Diamond. Alitoa kwa Saida Karoli.
Yes.
So you can still feel it's a Diamond song. But there's still a connection, not as strong as maybe South Africa.
But then,
not as strong as
because
no, it's not being unfair.
He sampled something.
Mika, we can agree to disagree.
Alisample ngoma fulani gonna sound Kiluya. If you sample something, it's gonna sound.
We can agree to disagree on that.
Let's go to the
Let's
caller.
go to the call.
9503. I think this is Yakobo Simba. Karibu. Oh, Yakobo.
Yakobo said
No. Okay.
Oh yeah. Hello? Okay, then let's go back. Go back to or there's someone else. What's last four?
9503.
Yeah, it's me again. Can I call twice?
South Alifa. Now you have to pay. Now we'll have to send you an invoice.
That sounds like advertisement.
We'll have to send an invoice.
Let's go,
thank you, brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
I want to agree with Micah that, in fact, even as Bandio says, dispels the music that now it's compa. It's not really compa because I DJ compa, kizomba, and semba, and that is what they're playing is not compa yet. They have a sample of the instrumentals towards the end to sound like compa, but it's not compa yet. So I agree also partly with Ali because you can say that what bongo is, it has an influence of tarab and zouk, the slow zouk. So that is very distinctively Tanzanian. If you play it anywhere in a party of Kenyans, they'll tell you that is bongo. But so let me go back to something that Jojo. I want to kick back to Jojo here because he said something that was very interesting. He said that, and I have case studies, and like I told you folks, I DJ kizomba, zouk, semba, and compa. And those music come from Martinique, the zouk, kizomba comes from Angola, semba comes from Angola, compa comes from Haiti. And within 2 minutes of playing those music, you know where it's from, and you can distinctly tell where it's from. So, Jojo said earlier that there's an intentionality to those countries that have pushed their identity. So I'm asking Jojo then, what has worked for them, and how can we mimic what has worked for them?
Great question, Jojo.
Okay, so unajua, there's two elements to music. There's the part where you're promoting yourself as an artist and where you're promoting the country or the music of the country. Okay, a lot of our musicians, and you know, you guys were talking about Mr. Googs and Vinnie Banton, and those are the musicians that we brought here to the United States for the very first time in 2003.
Mm-hmm.
Now, upon you, so when you talk about music and intentionality, it include people we forget a lot of the time, the producers.
Yes.
Producers, there's DJs, okay, even promoters. You have to be intentional about what you're trying to create. And you cannot be intentional if you don't know where you've come from musically or the country has come from musically. Ted Josiah really tried hard to come with an urban sound that has cultural elements to it. That's why Ismarwa is still one of my favorite albums. And that's why Gidi Gidi Majimaji became the first Kenyan group to be signed by Gallo Records in South Africa.
South Africa, yeah.
Because they brought that, they combined hip hop and that Luo swag, and they came up with something unique. And a lot of the music that has made it internationally is a fusion of two or more sounds. Okay, you can talk about I'm trying to remember this name. The South African reggae artist who passed.
Lucky Dube.
Lucky Dube.
Yeah.
Okay, so Lucky Dube did reggae, but he had such a signature sound that included
Yes.
South African elements, especially in the keyboard thing that he took everywhere with him. That is what made Lucky Dube. He did not try to fake his accent like some of our people try to do.
Yeah.
He just remained South African and just incorporated some elements of reggae, and it went international.
And Alpha Blondy from Ivory Coast. Alpha Blondy. Yes.
Alpha Blondy from Ivory Coast. Now you come to Kenya, okay, and we have legions of reggae DJs. It's one of the most popular genres in Kenya, but we don't have a single reggae musician from Kenya that
Has
is
gone global.
even half recognized by half the continent. So we've been consumers. Of what we need to do is take something that's working out, that take reggae, take R&B, take hip hop, and combine it with maybe the Benga guitar. I keep on insisting that because it's so signature, and come up with a sound. If you're not intentional about it, we're not going to go anywhere. That's why BN went back to the drawing board. Sauti Sol has great sound, is a great band, okay? But they're still soul searching. What's their sound? What's the Kenyan sound? And we can sit here and try to justify a lot of things, but the reason why, one of the main reasons why we are behind, it's because we are disconnected from the cultural element. And unless we reattach it, we still gonna be spinning on the same part, trying to come up, palimse anakuambia, nipe beat ni rap, nipe beat. Lakini beat tu anataka. So we have to move away from that and do some soul searching. The other thing is, when you're a DJ, you're a producer, lazima ukuwe ni trendsetter. Nini inaendelea hapa hivi? Now, unaweza sema I'm blowing my, on horn, lakini what we did with the Kenyan music industry hapa, we took it by the horns and pushed it. When I started promoting events, Kenyan bashes, there was only 2 albums, Heartstone and Kenyan the First Chapter by Ted Josiah. Kenyan DJs would not even play that music. And when you played Kenyan music, our own Kenyans sat down. They didn't want that. They wanted you to play Lingala, R&B, and other things. We forced that music until it gained momentum. Okay? I remember we introduced Kapuka here with Ridiculous came with the discs, and we sold them all over the country, and KJ went on stage and showed everybody how to dance. We sold all the CDs on tour. So we have to be intentional about the things we're doing. So when you're a producer and all you're doing is just producing, you're not taking us ahead anywhere. When you're a musician and all you're doing is just nip a beat, we're not going anywhere. There has to be some intentionality.
All right. Want to remind the listeners that you're tuned in to the One Mic Show. I'm your host and producer, Ali Badawy. We are here in a very hot conversation talking to Jojo Kilimanjaro, a pioneer of Kenyan music and promotion in the U.S. He's also the author of Rumba Evolution, a book that traces how African rhythms traveled to Cuba via slave ships, then evolved and returned to shape the golden era of rumba in Congo, Tanzania, and Kenya. Of course, before being disrupted by foreign influences. He has a book launch ceremony next Friday, March the 7th from 7 p.m. at Cedar Cultural Center. We've already posted the link in the comments at 416 Cedar Avenue, Minnesota. You want to RSVP. The book is also available on Amazon. I hope you guys are, and even those who are boycotting, the boycott is today. Wait until tomorrow. But those who are boycotting it, contact Jojo directly, and he will give you options of how to purchase it directly from him. We're about to come to a close right now, and we're going to be talking about the role the Kenyan diaspora has to play in revival of our ailing music industry.
Role ya DJ wakina Omosh. They're the one who killing it.
Diaspora.
And let me play this short
diaspora. And that's why I'm in Yamaza, by the way.
Let me play a short clip.
Yeah.
This is Master J. Master J was the first independent studio back home, right? MJ Records.
MJ Records, yeah.
Yes.
In Tanzania.
Yes, and he was talking about issues ambazo ziko kwenye
industry.
In industry.
Msanii akija kumuona beatmaker hataki hizi beat nyingine. They want to go the safe route. Kwamba siku hizi DJ they run the industry. Naomba niwaambie ukweli kabisa.
Kwa hiyo nasema nileteni mziki wa aina hii.
Brother, hizi nyimbo zako unazifanya hivyo, nimekupenda lakini mpenzi wangu ukanitenda. Hawataki kwa sababu anakuambia tempo iko chini, siku hizi tunaenda na mapiano. Haya manyimbo yako, mimi nawaambia ni ukweli kabisa, haya manyimbo yako unayotaka kufanya ya bongo flavor haya hatuyataki kwa sababu siwezi hata kukuweka kwenye playlist. Siwezi kukuweka kwenye playlist redioni, siwezi kukuweka kwenye playlist kwenye club.
Okay. So now we go back to the same topic, the same conversation we had before. The power of media houses in making and breaking not only music, but almost everything in our societies. Now how? Kina
OmoshFaya, DJs.
But that is very true.
Killing the music. Jojo, just react to that and let us know what you think.
How?
What the DJs are doing. What the DJs are doing?
Yeah, and just, what role maybe they can play even before we get to the diaspora. What role the mediums, like the DJs, because a lot of people hear music from the DJs and of course from media. So how can we use these tools to, or what is it that they're doing to kill it further? What can they do to revive it back? Jojo.
Play KE.
Okay, one of the things naonaga na DJ sana ni ile ati wao wanatakuwa kwanza kama ni DJ wa reggae, yeye ndio alicheza hiyo rhythm kwanza. Unaona? Ama yeye ndiye alibreak ngoma fulani ambao sikika. Yaani utapata kuna ma DJ wengi. Let me talk about reggae tuseme.
Yeah, man.
Are you gonna mention names? Ama leo
I can mention names. Siko baya lakini naweza mention names.
Kabisa. We like names.
Wow.
Eh?
Unajua Kenya
Violence.
ndio reggae artists ama bands that are make do.
Yes.
Because we've done them here. We know how much they get paid per show. And then ukisikia wameenda Kenya ama Afrika mahali pengine, zile pesa wanatengeneza is just obscene. Okay? So ma DJ kama Kenya kitambo kulikuwa na artists wa reggae wala walikuwa wameshika, you know?
Kina Jakimale.
Mighty King Kong. Who's the other guy? Wajambo Sounds.
Jakimale.
Yeah.
So sahi ma DJ wame take over and that's all good. But the issue ni ile it's doing nothing to the Kenyan music industry. They're just helping people consume the outside music. Kitu mimi ninge advise ma DJ wafanye ni, you've DJed for so long, anza label ambayo ina promote local artists, kucombine reggae na local sound ili tutoe sound ya reggae ya Kenya ambayo iko distinct vile Lucky Dube alifanya. Usikae tu ku DJ forever. Alafu unatoka.
Bandia shaipatia jina regenge.
You know, hata itu regenge. Ona kitu kama na forget nini, ona kitu wa Maspanyol walifanya na nini na reggaeton.
Yeah, reggaeton. Yeah, ni kweli.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay?
Lucky Dube has
so Kenya, there's already a market for it. Why can't we come up with a sound? Lakini haiwezi kuja unless uko intentional. Kama wewe ni producer,
unajua huko Jojo. Najua hapa Amerika je.
Okay. Wale ma DJ wako hapo Amerika.
Yeah, hapa Amerika within our own community.
Yeah, the whole industry.
Minda kwambia ukweli. Na ili kwa argument.
Yeah.
I think ni leader alikani. Kuna mtu aliandika hii statement. Mbona ngoma ma DJ like ilikuwa kila DJ alikuwa anatoa Nigerian overdose mix. Kuna mtu kuuliza Facebook, mbona ma DJ wamekangi mix na ngoma za Kenya? Wakasema hiyo RPM, hiyo ndio ilikuwa excuse walikuwa nayo. Ilikuwa back in 2013. I think 2013 or 2014.
Yeah, that's stupid.
Wakasema excuse ilikuwa RPM. Hiyo ndio ilikuwa excuse ya RPM. Kuna time hata ngoma za Kenya ziko zinasikika hii America.
BPM.
Now over the years, BPM, sorry, RPM ni gari BPM. So over the years we've not seen an influence. Na DJ kuna influences more because DJ kwa ni mnoma na unatuanga ma mix. Watu wakienda house party juu wataki siasa mingi wataplay ma mix. And people are going to search music through that. Hapa vile anaga tunaitwa hit and miss. Tuliput watu wengi sana onto Kenyan music and people are like wote watu kwa sema hakuna ngoma za Kenya, madijia kusema hakuna ngoma za Kenya. We set to prove them wrong tukiwaambia kila wiki tuko tunatolea ngoma mpya za Kenya. And we did it for years. So for me, Nigerians started being played in America because Nigerians played Nigerian music unapologetically. Mbaka correct. I'm a piano the same way.
And
for South Africa,
they would pay.
Correct.
Nigerians will come in the and pay.
Mbona watu wetu like ngoma ya Kenya, Kenyan music cannot come out of Kenya because somebody from America went to Kenya and got it from there. Kenyan music is gonna go out of Kenya because of the diaspora. Hii convention tuli having a clubhouse na kina alikuwa nitaje Mr. Seed ule artist wa jazz, kina Focus, kina DJ Foreign, and all the Nigerians said one thing: if it wasn't for our diaspora, our music would not have gotten out of Nigeria.
But I'm not sure, Micah.
So, that's true.
Yeah, but Micah, have you realized that most of the bongo flavor actually slow love songs, video mixes, bongo flavor love mixes. Most of them are by 254.
Yeah, they're 254. Yeah,
Yes, they're all 254, and I'll be like, I'm just watching all these bongo flavors love songs, which are very low RPM, you know, BPM.
Yeah, kama zile za kina Rayvanny, like Rayvanny song Te Amo.
Mario.
Yeah, it goes very viral. Yeah.
DJs.
You know, one thing is that these days they realize that the BPM excuse cannot be an excuse anymore.
Yes.
Okay.
I realize that because the best-selling artists in Kenya, the ones who have had longevity, ni watu wa R&B fusion, kina Sauti Sol, kina Bia, now ndo wana longevity more. Yeah. Unless when in Yashinsky.
Jojo, quick question. From Fela Kuti to Wizkid, Burna Boy, Sauti Sol, Yami Alade. Do you see any consistency over there when it comes to the Afrobeat?
Looking for my Johnny.
Yeah.
Listen to the drum sequencing on
African song.
Yeah, Afrobeat.
You'll always catch that.
Yeah, but even the traditional music had that fast-paced drums.
Yeah.
And so that's their music. Your fast-paced niao, that's their music. That is something that's been endemic into their system. It's the same way with that. Even if you went to it's just the same way. Every vernacular artist in Kenya, they have that one banger bass, ile ya one string instrument, ile ya like one or two string between, like a very little difference between an orutu to a nyatiti, like between a one string to a four string instrument. Kuna ile bass tuko nayo, no matter where you go to Kenya, kuna ile bass tuko nayo tu ya ngoma. So I think that's more into what Jojo was speaking about, coming from your traditional roots, what's been in your culture, what's been in your system. For them, that speed is for them.
Okay.
In the same way, South Africans, if you go from when they went from their local music, went to township music, went to Ntombi, Kwaito, from Kwaito to that house, unts that they have, and then Amapiano. Like all their sound has a one bass.
Okay. But Jojo, I want you, like to answer Zanele's question so that we do not get it lost as we are coming to a close. Jojo.
So kitu nataka kusema, huwezi blame ma DJ sana kwa ajili they have the same disease all of us Kenyans have.
I know.
Okay.
And which disease is this?
Hii disease ni ile ukoloni.
Oh.
Okay.
we tulikuwa brainwashed, ile kitu na imekataa kwenda. So maybe hii generation inakaa ndio inaweza nini. And yani a lot of the DJs are so selfish. I hate to say that, but I've worked with a lot of DJs.
Yeah.
Some of them I helped so much along the way, and then namuna siku ngine anasema ati I'm self-made.
Yeah, they made themselves.
Jojo, you are supposed to mention names.
Themselves via
you know. And then the one thing we ever did, or promoters ever did, was like during rugby and other events, you're doing a Kenyan event and it's not a Kenyan headlining that. You have like a reggae artist or a Nigerian artist.
I know.
There's nothing wrong with doing a Nigerian artist, but not on a Kenyan, like...
Not on a exclusively Kenyan event.
An exclusively Kenyan event. And then Torajepiga Kifua seme, oh, I was the first one to bring a Nigerian to a Kenyan event. And that's what killed these events. Unaona? So easy... What DJs need to understand that they have power and that they're trendsetters.
A lot of power.
The job is not just to copy and paste what's there. You should be able to break new music if you're a popular DJ.
Yeah.
A lot of these DJs unamuona anatembea peke yake all the time. Hana sidekick, hakuna mtu ana train.
But they don't need anyone to carry the records anymore. So I think, they don't have a passe.
Yeah, but you still, I'm not a DJ, but there's so many DJs that have gone through me.
But they still tweak the sound and instrument at the same time. Like
that is true.
Tweaking it to their own taste or anybody else's taste.
That's true.
So lazima upush vitu, I go back to myself because I know ni nini tulifanya, because tume break genge na kapuka
to the diaspora. Yeah.
All the DJs, if you remember, most of you guys ulikuwa nakumbuka hizo time, all the DJs, kina Otieno V, kina Top Don, used to come to me for music. Nilikuwa natoa music Kenya na upatia bure. Unaona? So watu wengi kwa hii industry wako
we've seen many of your albums.
Selfish reasons.
We've seen many of your albums, Jojo. We are not gonna say anything.
But now going forward, Jojo,
yes.
What needs to happen, especially from the diaspora, because clearly we've seen that this music has broken globally because of diaspora populations.
Right.
What are the very basic level needs to change? Because now the Kenyan diaspora population is changing. Now you have these kids who are born in the US, they're now adults, and then they're now at that age that is going out for music events and for parties and everything. What essentially needs to change, maybe starting from Los Angeles Sevens, which is coming up in early May? what needs to start changing for us to have some kind of impact? Jojo.
One, we have to start embracing those kids. There's a lot of them who are artists here. We don't always have to go home to let an artist. That's the one thing that has to change. There's a lot of talented ones. Now, a lot of promoters will only touch somebody who's already made it. That's not then you're not a promoter. A promoter, you promote something, you know?
Something that's unknown. Yeah.
You have to be, lazima ufanye vitu kama hizo, okay? Kitu ya pili, back in the day, and I see myself jumpstarting this thing again. We had a network of promoters, okay? Kwa kila city. So when I brought in artists from Kenya, I know that there's DC Banti yuko, okay? Najua Lloyd yuko New Jersey, najua Sam yuko Atlanta, najua Daddy V na kina nani, na kina DJ Joshua ko Dallas. Watu najua nikiwapatia wasanii, najua, you know, they're in safe hands. Unaona? So mostly what I did, I worked with the ground when I was in Kenya. Or I mean, with the ground, the people who are in Kenya. Okay? And then I work with the promoters here to make sure that artist nonge is what they want. And then before the artist comes, I know we have 12 shows across the country. So that has to come back. That network of promoters. Not anybody. Real promoters ambao wako interested na kupromote muziki. At the same time, unajua lazima make dough, of course. But you have to have the interest of the music at heart. A lot of the promoters, sahi na ma DJ, wameingia kwa industry for the wrong reasons. So between kupromote, kuna Wakenya wamefika hata The Voice, na si tumekata kuwa embrace.
Sani Mairura, I think even American Idol.
Yes, so Mairura.
Yeah.
You know, she one of them. And there's Naomi, I think, in Seattle, Amayo area. She does world music. There's a Kenyan who was nominated for a Grammy, lakini Americana category. A guy used to live in Minneapolis, now he tours all over. He's very popular.
Ondara? Yeah, the guy who plays country, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like country
musician,
they call it
yeah.
Americana.
Yeah.
So let's start embracing the diaspora. Hiyo ni kitu ya kwanza. Kitu ya pili, let me tell you another big problem we have. It's our artists. Our artists, yeye kitu anataka kujua ni show ni pesa ngapi amemalizia hapo. So even when they come here, they're not saying, Jojo, okay, when I come to, what else can we do? What else can we do? For example, there's an artist that came here that plays this Kambanane, and I wanted to introduce them to a mainstream market and play at a mainstream venue, but I told them, you're not going to get paid. I just want you to get introduced to this market so you can expand. Akakataa. And he was idle. Si ati alikuwa busy anafanya show ngine, alikataa. So a lot of the times the artists don't want to work with us. Okay? Ni ile tu, I want this kind of money and that's it. So ni kitu endemic iko ni ma producer wale wamekata kuchange, ni ma artist ambao wanafanya muziki a certain way, and they refuse to realize that the American market is different from the Kenyan market. Let's work it this way. Hawataki kufanya job hivyo. That's what there's no artist coming kwa ajili anakupatia conditions, ajui market inakaaje, unajaribu kumuexplainia atakusikia. Okay. The biggest problem we have ni artist wetu.
Okay. All right, Jojo, asante sana. Now before you go, talk to us about the book very briefly, and the launch event next week, which you've been talking throughout the show.
So the book launch is Friday, March 7th at Cedar Cultural Center in Minneapolis. So it's not just a boring book launch. It's accompanied by a live band and a DJ. So we'll be going through the evolution of Rumba with a live band. Some of the people performing, Shalita is Kenyan Tanzanian. Innocent Galinoma, although he's a reggae artist, he started as a Rumba artist.
Yes.
And he'll be playing the rhythm guitar Rumba. Okay? Banderson is a Kenyan Rumba singer. who's based in Minneapolis. And then Diatoti is Congolese. They're all going to be performing on that day. So it's going to be a fun day. The book is on Amazon. And if you don't know, if you're boycotting Amazon, just all platforms, I'm Jojo Kilimanjaro. You can inbox me, reach out to me, or email me at rumbaevolution@gmail.com.
Alright, Bandio, wahenga wanasema vipi wa kutoka kule Bukoba?
Wahenga wanasema kila kilicho na mwanzo hakikosi kuwa na mwisho. Meli imetia nanga. I missed one mic. All right.
I didn't
Jojo.
understand that part. I'm sorry.
All right. Yeah, don't worry.
We'll break it down for you.
We'll break it down.
All right.
Meli imetia nanga is the ship has docked.
Okay.
Yeah.
That
But it
means-
has multiple meanings.
Okay.
Hmm?
Imengoa nanga, we mbongo wata kutukotea.
No, ngoja. Meli lingoa nanga tulipoanza.
Nanga when we started the show.
When we started the show.
Now we just dropped.
Ukumbuki pale uliposema pale show ilipoanza wanasemaje mpaka hata nimesahau.
Tell a friend.
No.
the MV Mvita.
Yeah. MV the People's Kamkunji inangoa nanga. Na mimi hapo ni mwanzo wa show. Sasa mwisho wa show inatia nanga. Mwili nangoa nanga safari ikianza. Unangoa. Hiyo anka unaitoa. Ndo safari inaanza. Lakini ikifika kwa destination
una drop the anchor.
You drop the anchor.
Yes, you drop the anchor.
It's the end of the show.
Yeah, we are teaching Zanele some Kiswahili. She should teach us some Zulu in exchange.
Yes.
She will teach us something.
No, but is that click of the tongue really Zulu?
Yeah, Kala Pants.
Okay.
This means let's start all over the show.
Okay. All right.
Micah, say it again in English.
Kala Pants. In Zulu.
Let's go, Micah.
Pants. Let's start all over.
Aya, Micah.
Just want to thank our listeners, my fans, for joining us today. How are you guys feeling being back in Facebook? Anyway, we are back. It was your government cutting software. Ilikuwa shida ya mitambo, not on us. But we found a workaround. We are back, and we are glad to be here with you. Wapenzi wachangiaji. And actually, this is the first time this year I'm interacting with people properly. I've only done one show, 2 shows, 1.5 shows. So this is the second show, yeah. So I want to thank Jojo for joining us. It was a very good conversation. I want to encourage people to read the book. That book is really amazing. You'll learn a lot of stuff about music. You'll understand some things. It has a lot of aha moments. And it's not one of those long, boring books that you will... You're reading an encyclopedia. No, it's actually a book that each chapter merges into the other one, and you'll definitely be asking yourself, why isn't this a documentary? So Jojo, thank you for compiling the book, and I just want to remind people, remember what he said, there's that book launch. If you can make it that book launch. And those who need to order the books, Amazon, contact Jojo on his socials. But apart from that, it's Good Friday, and it's getting warmer. So what around the mingi, remember, don't drink and drive. If you're drinking, to me Uber. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mika.
All right, asante sana Mika. I think we go to Zanele first.
Oh, go to Zanele.
We go to Zanele first before we go to Omosh.
Zanele.
So Zanele, just give us your impression of the show. You know, it's your first interaction with us in Kilimanjaro Studios, and what people in South Africa will say if they watch this show.
Yes. First of all, I would like to say thank you to Mr. Jojo for taking his time and explaining to us what is going on behind the scenes when it comes to music, because we really need that information. We need everybody to know. My experience here today is my first day. I love it. It's very, very informative. I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot today, and I'm going to go ahead and go into more deep diving in. And I do believe we still going to have more shows like this. And we're going to bring South Africa in too.
Mm-hmm.
We have like a live, they have like live overnight that they can link us together so that we can have a live show in South Africa. So we're going to have
Kenya-South
that.
Africa connection.
Yes, we're gonna have all of that. Bringing the world together, and I really, really appreciate this moment. I'll never take it lightly.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. DJ OmoshFaya.
Thank you.
If he has anything to say after that, he struggles.
I struggle a lot of times, yes. Thanks to all our fans, our special guest from South Africa, and Jojo, thanks for the wisdom. And people don't really know how deep Jojo goes into this thing. He really, really takes this thing seriously. So when he talks about him being a producer, he's actually a producer. It's not like he's saying he's a producer. He's actually a producer. And
he's underselling himself.
Yes, he is. In fact, I'm surprised he didn't even. He should have brought Fanaka over here so that Fanaka sings for us some rumba. But anyway, neither here or there. And his daughter also sings as well. So
Maybe I can sing with her.
Okay, you sing?
I love to sing.
Jojo,
okay.
it looks like you might have a South African artist in the studio with your daughter if she's still singing.
Yeah, if you guys
right there.
Yeah, if you guys make a connection and make some money, 10% wouldn't be bad.
There's no
for making.
There's no if.
Find a fee. Find a fee.
We have a contract already that we will line up here, and just pull the contract out from behind the yes.
Okay,
We'll send it to Jojo so that he signs it while he's signing our books. Again, thanks to our listeners. As usual, we thank you. I know this is different for us as a show, but we inform, entertain, and what do we call it, Ali? Edutainment, right?
Edutainment,
We
yes.
inform, entertain, and we educate. So we're doing all of those things in one, and we continue to shape our shows as they continue to develop and evolve with you, our listeners. Thank you to our YouTube fans, to those of us who are on FB. We are sorry that it had a little hiccup, but we are back. We're back online, like Micah said, and we'll see you guys next week. And for my Muslim brothers and sisters, we will see you guys at 5 o'clock, inshallah. We start Ramadan. So you, I think those of you who like to eat.
Thanks for the quick class.
You may need to. Yes, you may need to do something about it, because at 5. I will be seeing you guys Mskitini.
Omar, talk to Ali directly.
I know. When you're talking to Ali without talking to him.
No, Ali already knows. Ali already knows what time it is.
Mashallah.
Ali he's got his dates already in his Ziploc. He's ready. You can't tell him anything.
Yeah.
He's ready.
So with that said, you guys have to be nice to me. I'm gonna be fasting for the next 30 days. So I know there are some of you who like bullying me and making fun of me, sending messages,
threatening me.
So at least for the next 30 days, be nice to me, be kind to me, and agree with me. Even if you disagree, just pretend to agree with me for the next 30 days. But of course, Ramadan is going to be starting tomorrow. We're going to be fasting for the next 30 days. Like very interesting times that we're living in. The last Ramadan, there was a lot of Gaza was at its peak, and we're having a lot of conversations about Gaza. And now we're here to see what's going to happen with this new Ramadan. We have a new president here in the U.S. Amekuwa akienda teke. So many things have happened. We'll try to figure out what happens from here. So Ramadan Kareem to all my fellow Muslim brothers and sisters around the world. And those who want to become Muslim, you can inbox me. I'll give you a few tips here and there. You can start fasting with us tomorrow. And then hapa Pan-African anasema the book should also be sold in Nairobi at Nuria Bookstore. That's a very, very good idea. Jojo, we are going to have a conversation about that, because I think this is a book of very high value.
Yes.
And one thing that I got from this book, one thing I've learned over time is that whenever you're digesting information, there's opinions that we all have. All of us have opinions. But whenever you're digesting information, I think it's important to put yourself in place of where am I in terms of knowledge in this thing that I'm having an opinion about. For example, I can walk into a surgical theater and have an opinion at how the doctor should cut those small intestines or should split the liver. I can have an opinion on that, but if I have I don't have the level of training that the people who are inside there, my opinion is just an opinion. It doesn't matter. So when you listen to people of knowledge, people who have experience in a certain field, feel free to shift your opinion. And one thing that this book has done for me, which very rarely happens, is that it has shifted my opinion on certain things that I felt. What Jojo was able to do very successfully, I'm a very difficult person to convince. He was able to methodically make me understand the missing recipe, because we've had a lot of these subgenres come up within the last 20 years, but there's been none of them has been able to crack the international code. And what Jojo has pointed out is an ingredient that has been missing in all these subgenres, something that I did not pause to think about, because I'm not a musical surgeon like he is. He's been in the industry, he's produced, he's hosted, he broke a lot of Kenyan artists and Kenyan genres in the US. So there's clearly something that Jojo knows that 99% of the people do not know. So I think read this book with an open mind. Ingia hapo Amazon, ama wait until tomorrow if you're boycotting, or if you're boycotting, contact Jojo Kilimanjaro on his social media handles, and he will let you know how you can get the book directly from him. Na kwa hayo machache, yote ambaye anataka kunipigia simu, nambari yangu bado ni ile ile 1-800 mteule. Upate takshika simu, mwambie unataka kusema na mjukuu, na akikuuliza ni mjukuu yupi, mkumbushe ni mjukuu yule yule wa Masai, because I'm Kenyan by blood, American by design, Masai by choice. Sichagui, sikagui, na sibagui. Kwaherini.
Asante sana. Jojo, thank you very much.
Hey, thank you.
It was Beres Hammond alisema, how sweet can the wine be if you're not sharing with someone? And now wine pia, how could you be like if you how could the party be like if you invited no one? So thank you for sharing. I know it was a lot for research and efforts and money and everything, and then you were kind enough to come and break it down for us. So thank you so much. Ali, you're reminded, don't forget the pizza date tomorrow.
Yeah, I see what this is doing there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Say that. Say leave a sliced slowly. All right. For everybody else, thank you very much. Uno, thank you for trusting me sitting here on your behalf while you're being lazy somewhere out there. So saying this with a lot of love.
Wow.
And kwa wale wapendwa wote, the loved ones, I love you back. I love you more.
Ulizo jamaa tunafuturu saa ngapi msana?
Yeah, tutafuturi hapa.
Man, kama mnataka kufuturu, you have to fast.
Mmeanza
You have to fast.
Yeah, mwezi tu kujitokeza futari.
Lazima tusosi.
Can't just show up.
Mi nitakuja na baruti, ama baruti haikuwa watu wakujangu na baruti nini, ama hiyo ni Diwali, sorry.
Yeah.
Show imetia nanga, naitwa Mobelo, watu inomu kama Saman Bandio Peter Kolinda, mwana Mapolina Baba Polina. Kwenye rego na nita Ras Twin, lakini Ras ya Marasta ni ya Real African Soldier, na Twin siya mapacha, hata kama wananifahamu ni mapacha. At next time, wanasema take care of yourself and others.